Why in the world would a Never-Mormon atheist or secular person from the Netherlands volunteer up to 5 or more years of their lives supporting Mormon Stories podcast and watching infinite hours of Mormon-themed and ex-Mormon-themed videos? Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Mormon Stories podcast. I'm your host, John DeLynn. It is May 7th, 2026, and today we're going to be nerding out. We're going to be doing an interview with someone who has really played a very important role in the Mormon Stories podcast community over the past 5 or more years. On YouTube, he's known as Trevor, but his actual name is Corry, and he's never been Mormon, and he lives in the Netherlands. And he's been our moderator of our Mormon Stories podcast YouTube channel for a long, long time. He co-moderated with Maven, and then he took over for Maven when Maven started doing other types of things. But most importantly, he has studied Scientology in depth, and he was kind of a Scientology, critic or activist in a way before he got interested in Mormonism. And then he started following Mormon Stories podcast and ended up as our moderator on our YouTube channel. And he's got his own story about what made him interested in cults generally, not to say the Mormon church is a cult, but that's how he would probably might frame his interests. So I'll represent the way he would frame it. So he was into Scientology before he was into Mormonism. Then he got into Mormonism. So we're going to be talking about his story. He also has done a comparison from his perspective of the Mormon church and L. Ron Hubbard and David Miscavige. He's done an analysis of how the Mormon church, in his view, is similar to and or different from Scientology. We're going to get to that. And then he also, maybe something he's most passionate about is, as a citizen of the Netherlands, which is consistently one of the top 5 happiest, rated happiest countries in the world, and also one of the most secular countries in the world. He wants to share a message with us, Mormons and ex-Mormons, about how, in his experience, the idea that you need a high-demand religion to be healthy and happy is a tad bit ridiculous. So that's what we're in store for today. We hope you will enjoy it. I also think we will be touching on themes around autism, maybe. And if that's not cool enough, we have Brooklyn here joining us today. So first I'll say, Brooklyn, so fun to have you.
Thanks. Nice to be on.
Yeah, good to have you. Nice. And you're joining us from the UK, right?
Yes. Yeah. From Southwest England.
From Mormon Stories offices, UK.
Yes. Yeah. But from Utah. So I'm a Utah Mormon at heart.
All right. Well, it's good to have you. And our guest of the hour or hours is Corry, or known on YouTube as Trevor. Hey, Corry.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
Our pleasure. Tell us, Corry, I didn't dare try to pronounce your last name. Tell us your last name.
My last name is Tersluizen.
Tersluizen.
That's pretty good.
Not bad. Well, you've been such a really important part of Mormon Stories behind the scenes for so many years. And I have to admit, Corry, for many, many years, I'm like, who is this guy? Like, you and I have only talked on the phone, once or twice in 6 or 7 years? I'm embarrassed to admit that.
Only once?
Yeah.
That was 5 or 6 weeks ago.
Yeah, and I'm like, who in the heck is this guy? Why is he so committed to Mormon Stories in spite of how unprofessional and neglectful I've been to actually reaching out to him and showing him gratitude and support? So you're a miracle to me. You're a modern-day Mormon miracle, Corry.
I don't really believe in miracles, but I get your point, I guess.
Well, Brooklyn and I do, so you'll just have to live with it. Brooklyn, remind us who you are just really quickly.
Yeah. I'm John's editor. I've been working for him for about 5 years and other miscellaneous tasks, primarily audio video editing. And I'm from Park City, Utah, but I currently live in Southwest England, like we said. And yeah, excited to also meet Corry for the first time today, because we had also had communications kind of since I started at Mormon Stories, when he was helping us put in time codes on the older episodes and always helping with the moderation. So yeah, excited to meet you as well.
And Brooklyn, you've got you have a lot of interests. Obviously, we've had you on before when we've talked pop culture and Secret Lives and Real Housewives kind of stuff. But you also have a real interest in high demand religions or cults. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yes. I can be, a bit obsessive and nerdy about it for sure. I left the church when I was 17, 18, kind of my senior year of high school. My family left the church, and I was extremely faithful Mormon. And so that, I think just when you're in that mindset, you become fascinated I think probably the psychological effect, I don't know, that a high demand religion can have. And so, yeah, I got super interested in all kinds of other, cults, high demand religions, and Scientology definitely being kind of the primary one. So I'm super excited to talk about that today as well. Yeah.
It's hard to out cult Scientology.
It is. It's almost got the gold medal. Yeah. I feel like that and Jehovah's Witness. Yeah, there's some Scientology's up there, which I feel like we should just say right off the bat. Probably my favorite ever Mormon Stories episode was with Claire and Mark Headley from Scientology. And that was 2 parts, I think. That was probably my favorite episode just because of my love of Scientology. And I knew them from the Leah Remini TV show and the book Going Clear. So that was a great episode. And anyone else who likes Scientology should look into that one.
Yeah, that was for sure gripping. Mm-hmm. Well, fun. Well, it's good to have you, Brooklyn. Thanks for joining us. All right. Well, Corry, before we dive in, do you even feel the desire, need to kind of share an intention of why you would even be willing to share your story with us? You don't have to. I just want to give you a chance if you want to.
Not really. I just would like the audience to know that obviously I'm not a native English speaker. I'm used to writing and listening to English. I don't really speak it though. And if for some reason, you think I need a little help with my English, I don't mind you helping me out a little.
What do you think, Brooklyn? I kind of think his English is fantastic. What do you think?
Yeah, I was just going to use the same word. It's going fantastic so far. So give yourself more credit. Yeah.
I remember you had 3 years ago this woman, Christina or something, and her English was really excellent. I think she was raised bilingual. I never had that.
That's amazing.
Well, yeah, your English sounds great.
Well, let's jump in. Let's jump in, Corry. So let's go back and tell us a bit about your upbringing and what led you to be interested in cults.
I'm born 1968 as the 6th child. I have 2 sisters, 2 brothers, and 1 fraternal twin brother. I was born 20 minutes later, so I'm technically the youngest. My dad was a maintenance mechanic. He worked in a factory. My mother was a stay-at-home mom. They're both deceased now. I didn't really know my grandparents. 3 of them died when I was like 4 or 5 years or something. 1 died when I was 13 or 14 maybe. Fun fact, the older sister does genealogy, which, as I understand it, is quite important in Mormonism. I was raised Catholic. Maybe it's important for people to understand that Catholicism in the Netherlands back in the 1970s and the 1980s, when I grew up, was rather progressive. I'll come back to that later, but it's kind of important to know. I was baptized when I was a few weeks old. Of course, I don't remember a lot of that, or hardly anything at all, to be fair. I did First Communion at 7 or 8, and I think it's called confirmed, when I was about 12 years old. My mother was very keen on us being raised in the Catholic faith. My dad, not so much. He used to only go to church on Christmas and for Easter and that kind of thing.
Let me ask you, Corry, was Catholicism important to your social or moral or spiritual life as a child and as a teenager?
I wouldn't say that myself. I will get to talk about it, but basically, I started losing my faith. I do remember, for example, when I was in high school, that the religion teacher would tell us to not take the Bible as a literal truth, which is 1981, 1982 or something. And in those years, during those years, I already was in the process of losing faith. I think that was a process that you also saw elsewhere in the Netherlands. Much of my classmates were also in the same process. I wouldn't say it was very important to me.
Okay. Kind of something that a lot of kids did in the time. It was kind of cultural to be Catholic in the Netherlands. Yeah. Okay.
Now, the Netherlands traditionally has had several religions. I live in Nijmegen, which is near the German border, and it's basically the most northern part where you still find a lot of Catholic people. More to the north in the country, you will find more people from Protestant denominations.
Got it.
I'm not sure if they are comparable to Lutheran or Episcopalian or whatever denominations you have in the United States. I'm not aware of the exact theological.
Sure.
How do I say that?
Lineage or relationship?
I'm not sure how the Protestant denominations here are comparable to whatever you guys in the United States have.
You got it right. I think you got it right.
I do remember from being from a large family that there was some talking about Mormons. That's basically one of the few things that I knew about Mormons back when I was a child. They had large families. One kid in my primary school was also from a rather large family. I think she had 8 siblings or something. And I had 5. One of my brothers had the single Crazy Horses by the Osmonds.
I remember that song. Crazy horses. I remember that.
Exactly. I do remember Down by the Lazy River, which was a big hit here back in the day. And I think at one moment in one of your episodes, you referred to One Bad Apple.
One bad apple don't spoil a whole bunch, girl. Oh!
I didn't remember it by the title, but I had to first listen to it, and then I recognized the song. I think I looked it up recently. It was released in 1971, so I would have been 3 at the time.
The Osmonds were the white Jackson 5, and Donny Osmond was the white Michael Jackson. 100%. Yeah. We haven't talked about that enough on Mormon Stories.
I think that, we just use some Osmond series, honestly.
Yeah, we should.
Yeah. I mean, my mom grew up in an era where that was everything. So we listened to a lot of Osmonds in our house.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I also have some vague memory. I'm not sure if it's true that at the time, that must have been before 1978, when the priesthood ban for Black people was gotten away with. when I think the Osmonds were on TV defending black people not having the priesthood. I'm not sure about that. There's still a video about that on YouTube. For some reason, someone put it on there. It's quite cringe. Back in the day, even we as a family were like, this can't be real. That this is not good. As a teen, I thought church was boring, frankly. My mom was okay with me starting to volunteer at the local hospital, though, which my personal goal was to not have to go to church anymore, but I had to replace it with volunteering at the hospital. They had a church service on every Sunday. And of course, patients that during the weekend stayed over in the hospital would want to go to the religious service, and we would get them from whatever department in the hospital they were from and bring them to the church service, and we would serve coffee afterwards and then bring them back to the department in the hospital where they came from. I have to say that during this time, I'll even have served as an altar boy in the religious services at the hospital. In a way, I guess my mom's strategy to not force me to go to church, but instead volunteer at the hospital did work to, at least get me in contact with religion as a subject, even in my teen years. And yes, and as I just said, I remember very vividly, actually, that in religion classes in high school, I was being taught not to take the Bible as a literal truth, which basically coincided with the period of time where I started losing faith. I wouldn't say that it was the cause, though. It was more of a cultural thing where classmates also started losing faith. I think I was a few months shy of my 15th birthday when I, for the first time, heard about Scientology. One of my brothers talked about it. Well, I'm not sure about my age. At least I was a teen. I was a good boy. I didn't go find out for myself if Scientology actually was a cult. But my interest in Scientology kind of started. Back then, we didn't have the internet, of course. But what I did was sometimes read articles in newspaper, or every now and then there would be a new show on the TV where they would have a story about it, and I would like to follow those stories.
Interesting. I did not have Scientology on my radar in the 80s, for sure. So it's interesting you did.
Well, to be fair, I just explained how Mormonism was virtually not a thing for me. So I guess it goes both ways.
Oh, right. Yeah.
At 19, I told my parents I didn't want to go to church anymore. I wasn't the first to lose faith in my family, which kind of helped. Obviously, my parents were disappointed, but they never stopped loving and supporting me. That was never a problem. Around 21, I think, I also stopped volunteering at the hospital. They had an age limit for their volunteers. So I had to stop there. I do remember back then that I, at one moment, found the book Dianetics in a second-hand store. I thought it was pretty unreadable garbage. I never got past the introduction. I guess Claire or Mark would say that I had a misunderstood word, as they call it in Scientology.
Tell our listeners that don't know the background or the connection between Dianetics and Scientology. Explain that.
Dianetics basically is the first book in Scientology. It's actually called Book 1. And in Dianetics, which was written by L. Ron Hubbard, he explains how you can become clear in his fantasy. The book was quite a success, and after some period of time from Dianetics, L. Ron Hubbard developed Scientology, which, of course, someone like Claire or Mark would be very much better at explaining how the history went.
And I looked it up. Dianetics first was published in the 1950s, so it's been around a long time.
Yeah, L. Ron Hubbard first wrote an article in a science fiction magazine, Astounding Science Fiction, I think it is called. And that gave apparently a pretty good response. So he developed the story into the Dianetics book later.
Fascinating.
Okay, so somehow when in my early 20s, I'm still kind of a seeker. I want to know how we can know what is true, what is not. And at 22 or 23, I read the book Gödel, Escher, Bach by Douglas Hofstadter, and in which the writer explains the parallels there are between Gödel's theorems, which are from math, the drawings that Escher has made, and Bach's fugues. It's been quite a while since I read the book, but if I explain it right, Gödel's theorems basically state that in math, the absolute truth is that if there is such a thing to begin with, we might not be able to prove it's the absolute truth. Those are my words. Somehow, and mathematicians and philosophers, I guess, may not like it, but somehow that was the end of my search. I think I had the answer. I think I found that we cannot have absolute truth, and we always have to explain our assumptions before we make a statement about something.
So you kind of lost your faith in anyone being able to obtain an absolute truth, including any religious system.
Exactly. Yes. The YouTube channel Veritasium has a video about this, which is math's fundamental flaw. I think it is very interesting, and for people who want to learn more about that, is as simple as possible explanation of Gödel's theorems. I really recommend that. So basically, that led me to, as you said, losing interest in questions that maybe we cannot answer. I was like, why would I even bother thinking about those questions? So indeed, this included faith.
Why are you smiling, Brooklyn?
It's just a bit of a foreign concept to me, I think, growing up Mormon. Yeah.
Oh, it's a totally different worldview. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So it's really interesting to me.
Just that absolute truth's unknowable.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist.
I don't think I've heard a lot of people talk on Mormon Stories or elsewhere about losing their faith because of a mathematical statement, the Gödel's theorems.
Yeah, that's pretty highbrow.
So
yeah, Brooke, have you ever had, Brooke, do you remember anyone saying Gödel caused me to lose my testimony? Gödel?
Definitely not.
Gödel, Escher, and Bach caused me. There's never been a thumbnail that said Gödel, Escher, and Bach caused me to lose my Mormon faith.
Yeah.
Math made me lose my faith. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Okay. If my current thoughts about God is, well, I don't see enough evidence for there to assume that there is a God. I'm not a historian. I don't know if Jesus existed, but from what I understand, most people, most historians go with an actual Jesus existing. I don't believe in any of the, let's say, supernatural stuff, such as the resurrection and that kind of thing. I'm not sure about him flipping tables in the temple, but I do love the story because it tells me that there are values other than just money that are important. And, I can relate to that story a lot, even while I'm not a religious guy.
Hey, Corry, I'm curious, what about the epistemology that some things you know by feeling, and that God set it up so that we don't have a memory of the pre-existence so that we can have faith, and that there are different types of knowing, and one form of knowing is feeling inspired by a divine being? What do you think about the epistemological implications of that paradigm?
I learned about that paradigm through watching your podcast, and I cannot really relate to it. It's for kind of a foreign concept to me.
Okay, so it's not compelling, to say the least, to you.
No, okay. I won't say that. No.
Okay. Can you explain why? Just, it's probably obvious, but why? Why not?
I think it might be an idea to come back to that a little later in the story.
Sure. Okay, we'll come back to it.
So between 18 and 30, I, of course, focused on education. I have a background in IT systems development and management, and a Master of Business in Business Administration. I started my career in IT. Of course, I also at one moment started living on my own, which religion as a subject pretty much out of the picture. I never got to find my eternal companion, as it's called. That's also a thing that maybe will be more understandable later. It just didn't work out. It's not for lack of trying that I have never found a partner. I did send, and this is a bit strange, maybe, a letter to the Catholic Church to resign. By far, most people in the Netherlands who lose their faith in Catholicism or the Protestant branches we have here just don't bother. Somehow, for me, that didn't feel right. I wanted to actually resign, so I did that.
I'm just Googling quitcatholic.com and it doesn't exist.
Yeah, I was gonna say that is interesting. I don't know why I haven't quite thought about in other religions people resigning, but I really only hear, I mean, my worldview is Mormonism, but I haven't heard of a Catholic resigning.
Yeah, I can't believe I've never thought of that, Brooklyn, that we might be one of the only churches.
No, I guess the thing is because if you don't resign, you risk the missionaries coming to you every 5 months or whatever it is. Yeah. And I can imagine that you can get fed up with that.
No, actually, Corry, one of the main reasons I hear is people saying, I don't want the church to count me in their numbers.
Absolutely. That's what I was going to say. That was my reason as well. Yeah. So maybe just because other churches don't have this major issue of, Scientology does famously of lying about their membership. So yeah, but that's a major reason for me was that please don't count me. Yeah.
Which I have to say wasn't a reason for me as well. I think that this was about the time when there were a few scandals here in the Netherlands about child abuse. So that may have been a reason back in the day.
Makes sense.
It's quite some time ago, so I don't know the exact reasoning anymore. Yeah. We have general data protection regulation here in the European Union. This includes the right to be forgotten. So I'm frequent ex-Mormon Reddit a lot, and there's sometimes confusion about the question if the right to be forgotten also applies to being in the records of churches. Contrary to what a lot of people think, it is the case that the churches currently have the right to keep your data on their records even when you resign. There is, however, currently a court case in Belgium, in which some members of the Catholic Church have asked the judge to force the church to delete the records, and the Belgium court has now asked the European Union Court of Justice to advice on what to do there. And at the end of this year, so at the end of 2026, or maybe at the beginning of 2027, we will get a verdict, and I guess we will know a little bit more about that.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the church doesn't, even when people resign, that just changes a field in a database.
Exactly. Yeah. I know that. Even if the European Court of Justice will force the Catholic Church here to actually delete your records when you resign, another question would be if for members of the Mormon Church here who resign, the LDS Church in Salt Lake City will actually do it, because there's as far as I can tell, the database with members is in Salt Lake City. So this is not just EU law being applicable or not, but it also is how are you going to enforce EU law for a database that's actually in the United States? And that's a separate subject in itself, I guess. Maybe you could do a separate podcast about that with someone who's a lawyer or something.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
In 2001, I had my first internet connection, which was still you remember that, John, a dial-in thing?
I do remember that, yeah.
I started reading about Scientology then. Every few months I would read whatever news there was about Scientology. Back in the day, you had a website called Xenu.net. It's still around.
Wow.
Xenu.net.
Xenu.net, yes.
Yeah.
And there was a forum website that came with that, which was Operation Clambake. The forum website is now gone, but as I said, Xenu.net still exists. And, well, every few months I would read. There was not so much news as there is about the subject today. So there were not a lot of changes in news. I'm going to fast forward now to January 2008. And I was once again reading about Scientology on the internet. And this was when a video that the Scientology Church has created with Tom Cruise got leaked onto the internet. I see you smiling, Brooklyn. Maybe you remember that? Or you heard about it?
Yeah, I think if it's what I'm thinking of, yes, but just to the Tom Cruise of it all.
It's like Scientology General Conference. It was like this highly produced event, right?
Yes.
With like jumbotrons and...
there is a video circulating of Tom Cruise accepting some kind of a medal from David Miscavige, but I'm talking about another video, which was only for internal purposes for the Church of Scientology. And in this video, Tom Cruise basically is ranting about how great Scientology is, and how, as a Scientologist, you are the only one who can help when there's an accident, and that kind of nonsense. And it got leaked onto the internet. People started noticing. It went viral, And here I am at home reading about that, and also finding out that at the time, of course, the Scientology Church tried to get rid of the video from the internet. Welcome to the Streisand effect. So what happened is maybe interesting, because at a website called 4chan, people were becoming aware of the fact that the church tried to get rid of the video, and they were like, not on our watch, because we value freedom of speech a lot. So a protest action Chronology was born, which was the anonymous protest against Scientology. And yes, they at first started out with doing all kinds of prank calls and ordering pizza for Scientology churches and whatnot. More or less comparable to the current speed runs that are not really effective if you want to fight.
I just heard about this, the speed runs. John, have you heard of this?
I did, but first, Brooklyn, tell me what you remember about the pizza deliveries. I never heard about that.
I just him saying that just like scratches this itch in the back of my brain, or just, of a memory of like is it like ordering pizzas to the
for the Scientology or without them even knowing?
Yeah,
just a bunch of pizzas would show up.
I don't remember the significance or why, but like I do.
This was just to harass the Scientology orgs, which like the speed runs isn't a very effective way to fight Scientology or the abuses that happen within Scientology.
Explain the speed runs
because that's the feeling I had when I heard about the speed runs recently. I was like, wait, what?
Speed runs are a current thing. I'm not exactly up to speed on the subject.
Can you explain just your base knowledge on it for the audience of what the speed runs are? Can you explain the speed runs?
Speed runs is basically kids entering Scientology orgs, their churches more or less, and trying to get as far in as they can. So
while filming themselves,
while filming it and putting the video on Instagram or YouTube or wherever. And
I don't understand the point. The first time I heard it, I thought they were going through the steps of science, like going through
no
as fast as they could. And I was like, this is an expensive prank because you're paying a lot for these courses.
No, this is just
learning, and I was almost more confused.
This is just kids running into a Scientology building and filming it to put it on the internet. It's basically trespassing, if you ask me. And it's not very effective if you want to protest Scientology. Back to 2008, a video journalist back in the day, Mark Bunker, who has been a long-time critic of Scientology, posted a video explaining to Anonymous how their way of protesting Scientology maybe wasn't very effective, and maybe they should instead focus on something which sounds very boring, like taking away their tax exemptions, because that is what is very much going to hurt Scientology. I guess, pretty much to anyone's surprise, the anonymous people started refocusing and started protesting the actual abuse in Scientology and make it, in a way, first and foremost legal, but also a more productive thing. And here I was at home reading about that. I was like, what the hell is going on? And in a way, I recognized at that moment that they had found a way to productively protest Scientology, and I was like, I felt called, maybe, to
see. We call that the Holy Ghost, Corry. That's what we call the Holy Ghost.
Okay, I like to say that it's. I got the idea that I might be helpful in protesting Scientology. So on the on May the 19th of 2008, I created an account at the website anturbulation.org. It was back in the day. The account was called TrevAnon, and that may sound familiar.
Okay. And the name was born. There we
TrevAnon
go.
was born.
So Anon was me trying to be hip at the time. Trev is short for Trevor Horn, which is my favorite record producer. So that's the
okay.
That's the secret behind the name. And maybe the audience will know Trevor Horn because, for example, he produced Kiss from a Rose by Seal. He also did Frankie Goes to Hollywood, the first album.
Relax. Don't do it when you want to go to it.
And Grace Jones, Slave to the Rhythm. Okay, we can geek about about his music some more. But
no, my favorite Seal. My favorite Seal. And we're never going to survive unless we get a little crazy. Sorry.
Trevor Horn is also known as the inventor of the 80s. That's a fun fact. One of his first singles was "Video Killed the Radio Star."
Video killed the radio star.
Which was the first and the last video to be broadcasted on the MTV channel.
We're getting all sorts of trivia. We're getting all sorts of trivia today.
Of the reason that I used an alias, TrevAnon, was frankly because back in the day I was afraid of Scientology. They were known for harassing critics, and during the anonymous protests, there have been people dragged into court and whatnot by Scientology. So I decided to use an alias to prevent them from coming after me.
Yeah, smart. They're still known for this. Yeah.
The fair gaming stuff.
Fair game.
Fair gaming stuff. I started out on translating German articles, Scientology, into English. Lots of members from Anonymous wanted to know what was going on in Germany, especially members from Anonymous from the United States and other English-speaking countries. Basically, what's at stake here is that the Germans view Scientology as a commercial enterprise, and most of all as a totalitarian movement. Germany, of course, has a history with totalitarian systems, and they basically say, we don't want that anymore, so we're going to keep an eye on you. And it shows a very deep cultural difference between the United States on the one hand and Germany on the other hand, because I think to this day, I'm not sure about that, the United States every year publishes a report about freedoms worldwide, and every year Germany gets to some criticism for its so-called lack of religious freedom for Scientologists. But the Germans, of course, will insist that they do not want a repetition of what happened during the World War II.
Fascinating. Do you mind if I ask, would this be a good time? I was wondering about what the presence of Scientology is in the Netherlands or in Germany, or, I sort of never really think of it very much.
Scientology in the Netherlands, as far as I can tell, is very small. Maybe they have like 100 or 200 members, nothing more. It's really small. I don't know the numbers for Germany. Obviously, Germany is a larger country, so they will have more members there. I don't know the numbers from those countries and other countries in Europe. Obviously, it's very small. The best estimate that I know about the number of members Scientology has worldwide is from a journalist by the name of Tony Ortega. He has a blog, TonyOrtega.com .org.com, I'm not sure. And he also has a Substack. And in 2020, I think he published an article where he said that his best estimate of the number of Scientologists worldwide was 20,000, which is really small.
They claim 1 million or so, right?
Yeah.
They used to claim 1 million, millions of members. That never was a thing, actually. I think at their height, they had, at the beginning of the 90s, let's say 1990 to 1995, they maybe had 110 or 120,000 or something like that. So ever since, it has gone down very much.
I was recently interviewed on Radio West about the Mormon Church suing me and Mormon Stories podcast. And I really am wondering whether the presidency of Dallin H. Oaks, who's I think one of the first, if not the very first lawyer to ever become a Mormon prophet, we're seeing an increase in excommunications and possibly in lawsuits. It's making me wonder whether Oaks's administration is going to mark a turn of the Mormon Church more towards the types of behaviors that accelerated the demise of Scientology, because we all remember the close of the Going Clear documentary, where Scientology becomes a church with shrinking membership, but with massive real estate and financial holdings. And if the Mormon Church isn't careful, it's going to follow that same path, which I'm sure we're going to get to, but I just had to call that out.
David Miscavige would love to have the billions of dollars that the Mormon Church has. It's the best estimates that I'm aware of for Scientology are 2 or 3 billion.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which, of course, is a lot of money.
It's too much money.
I sure would like to have it, but it's nothing near what
the Mormon Church as well. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
In July of 2009, a member of Anonymous on the website that I just referenced came up with the idea to create a list of people who have been members of Scientology and who were speaking out using their real name, which was and is a big thing. Scientology obviously has the disconnection policy. If you speak out about Scientology and you have families the family that is still in will disconnect from you. Mm-hmm. So, but nonetheless, there had been a lot of people already spoken out about Scientology and about the abuse that is going on within the church. So, but no one, I guess, made a list to find out how many people actually there were. So we started creating a list. I was one of the researchers, and within almost a year, I think it was, we had found 1,000 names for Scientologists who had spoken up about Scientology. This is the former Church of Scientology members who spoke out. I hope you can see that.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay. Yeah. This is the list that Anonymous has created starting in 2009. As I said, I'm one of the researchers. There's one other guy I want to shout out to give a shout out to him. He goes by the name Incredulous and Aside, which is kind of a funny name. There are, as you can see here, 3,307 people on the list, and basically it's just a list of names of people who have been who have spoken out against Scientology.
Wow. I'm sure Chris Shelton is on there, and Leah Remini, yes. And Mike Rinder, and Mike Rinder.
Claire. Here you can see Claire Hadley and Mark Hadley.
Yeah.
They both have several links behind their names of evidence where they have spoken out. For some people, including Clara and Mark themselves, you also see a little heart, which is a reference to another list with stories of disconnection. As they told in their episode on your show, their family members have disconnected from them. And yes, this is it's actually called the big list of Scientologists who have spoken out. I've been working on this for the past 18 years, almost 17 years, I should say.
So you maintain that document?
The guy who goes by Incredulicide is the one who maintains the document. I do help with research, finding new names.
Oh, wow. That's cool. So you're a legitimate anti-Scientologist.
For real.
I think you could say that. Yes.
Yeah, I would say that.
Is that a term? Is that a term?
You're putting the action in. You're walking the walk.
So this list was made started back in 2009. At the beginning, this was me just naively thinking that presenting members of whatever religion with facts about their belief system, that you could get them to leave that. I have especially since watching your podcast, learned that it isn't that easy to do such a thing.
Yeah.
But it also was important to let ex-members who until that moment had not spoken out about Scientology, to get them to see how many people already have spoken out about the subject, and trying to encourage them to take the first step as well, in meaning they encourage them to speak out themselves about whatever happened to them. In a way, the big list, I guess, now has done its most important job. There is, I would say, a thriving community of ex-Scientology members. There are several channels on YouTube and elsewhere with people discussing the subject, more or less comparable to what is happening in Mormonism.
Is the term anti-Scientologist, is that a thing? Is it suppressive people? Do the Scientology critics embrace the term suppressive people? Like, how do they identify?
You would have to ask them, but I do know that a lot of people got a suppressive person declared from Scientology. Mark and Claire also talked about that in their episode, and they tend to show the actual golden rod. It's kind of a yellow paper where it says they have been declared as a badge of honor on the internet. So it's more or less, maybe that's the reason that Scientology no longer provides these things to ex-members.
Oh, do they not anymore? Interesting.
No, they don't anymore. I guess they don't like it when people show those things on the internet.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
I love it when people reclaim, a term that's intended to be derogatory. I'll just say really quickly, Corry, that obviously in the Mormon context, the church and its leaders have created this culture where anyone who has a criticism is immediately labeled anti-Mormon, or the criticism is labeled anti-Mormon. And that's a way of thought stopping to get members to immediately stop listening and stop trusting it. Even if it's a believing member that just had a bad experience or learned a piece of history that's problematic, it's just, the anti-Mormon label is a way to just shut believing members' minds off.
I would say it's pretty much the same for Scientology. I would say it's pretty much the same for Scientology, yes.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Brooklyn?
I was just thinking in terms of Mormonism as well, just the term apostate, once you're labeled apostate, like you're invalidated almost in the eyes of a faithful Mormon. They're not going to be listening to what you have to say because you're now under the influence of Satan or whatever. Yeah.
Scientology even has a separate course about the subject, the PTS-SP course. PTS is for potential trouble source, and SP is for suppressive person. And off the top of my head, a PTS is someone who is connected to a suppressive person, and you can even be PTS when you're, for example, sick. So if I have a cold, I'm probably connected to a suppressive person.
Right. Yeah.
Which is kind of weird.
They're also taught that your physical well-being is a reflection of your actions. Yeah. So if you're sick, you've done something wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. They will say, what have you done to pull this in?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Pretty much anything is your own fault.
Fascinating. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, cool. So you're a legitimate anti-Scientologist.
I have no problem with that label. No.
I also agree with that label for him. Yeah, this is quite impressive. So were you doing this as like a hobby during all of those years, or?
Yeah, I just had a regular job, and I pretty much was doing this as indeed kind of a hobby. And I did invest, as John said at the beginning, a lot of time into the subject. Mm-hmm. The anonymous protests pretty much stopped after a few years. I think by the end of 2012 or 2013, maybe 2014, I'm not sure. The most of that has stopped. The website that I referred to earlier, which was inturbulation.org, is no longer around. The big list, as I said, mostly is a resource now for ex-members. I think it has accomplished its main goal. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that's pretty much what...
Do you feel, I mean, I have to ask, what led, I can imagine the bad press around Tom Cruise and Katie Holmes, Tom Cruise jumping on Oprah's sofa and acting super weird, all the David Miscavige bad press that came out, like... But I imagine the work that y'all did, and Leah Remini and Mike Rinder speaking out, and the documentary that Leah and Mike came out along with Lawrence Wright's Going Clear book, and then the documentary did I just list most of the main things that really damaged Scientology, or are there other ones? But I was also going to note you were a part of bringing down the church several notches, it sounds like.
Well, I wouldn't take that much credit, but I do like to think that the big list and another list that I also created, which was with Disconnection Stories, have been helpful in the protests against Scientology. The main reason for the membership of Scientology going down, I would say, were the documentary Going Clear and the series that Leah Remini did. I also would like to mention an email that was sent out on January 1st, 2012, if I remember correctly. A faithful member of Scientology by the name of Debbie Cook at that moment did send an email critical of David Miscavige to, I've heard, thousands of members. I'm not sure about the exact number. She didn't criticize Scientology itself or L. Ron Hubbard, but she did criticize policies that have been implemented by David Miscavige. And, well, of course, Miscavige didn't really like that, and he immediately kicked her out. And he did, at that moment, sue her, which didn't help. Her lawyer put her on the stand. There's a video about that on YouTube. It's on the YouTube channel by Amy Scobie, which is another ex-member. She also provides some context with the video. Basically, Debbie Cook is telling about what she had to endure while she was in the hole, and she had to deal with a lot of abuse. And Scientology never, I guess never expected that, because they wanted to get rid of the lawsuit they started themselves really fast back then. And I'm sure Debbie Cook and the lawyer got a nice amount of money to make it all go away, which I want to emphasize this was a lawsuit that Scientology itself started.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's kind of weird that they didn't expect this outcome.
That's interesting, because the Mormon Church just started a lawsuit against me, and many of us are wondering whether they'll end up regretting that.
Yeah.
I did see a lot of people on Ex-Mormon Reddit talking about how this was for them the final step to actually resign the church.
Yeah.
I guess we'll see in April of 2027 the new membership numbers in the United States, and maybe they will go down. We'll see. In 2014, at age 46, I found out that I'm on the autism spectrum. There's a backstory.
46, you discovered. Wow.
That's relatively late, yes. There's a backstory that maybe for this episode isn't that interesting, but it did feel like solving a puzzle for me. All kinds of symptoms all fell on its place. And a lot of people with autism have what is called a special interest. And it's a subject that they are interested in, working on, doing on, engaging with a lot. And this was one of the things that led me to realize how my special interests obviously was high demand religions, Scientology at the time. And frankly, also for me, this was a helpful thing to find out about myself. Since then, I've
so part of why we have. I know there's been a lot of talk in the, we'll say, neuroatypical space, and even in the autism space, to not always talk about these diagnoses as illnesses, but sometimes as features or as blessings or opportunities or positive traits. And I can say the Mormon Stories community clearly, and we'll get to this, has benefited from the focus that possibly your autism brings your brain. Is that kind of what we're saying?
I think that's fair to say.
Yeah. Yeah. So thank you, autism. Is that bad?
No, I wouldn't say for myself that autism is necessarily bad. Obviously, I'm aware that a lot of people that have autism maybe suffer from it, maybe even would want it to not be there. I'm not sure if there was some magical solution to not have, so I could not have autism anymore, would be even attractive to me. I'm wondering what I would do if such a solution would be available. I think at the beginning of 2021, I'm going quite fast now, YouTube suggests the Mormon Stories episode with Chris Shelton. Chris Shelton, of course, is an ex-Scientology member, and back in, I think it was 2019, you did an episode, a very long episode.
Multi-parts, yeah.
I think it was a total of 16 hours or something.
Yeah.
About about the story of Scientology, meaning L. Ron Hubbard and David Miscavige, but also with the story of Chris himself being in and later getting out and becoming an activist. So I watched that. I continued with a few weeks later, maybe the Mike Rinder episode. I think you released that pretty much during that time period. And then YouTube seems to think that I like your podcast. So YouTube recommends me the episode with Leah Cody and Brinley Young.
Mm-hmm. That was a classic. That's a classic.
I decided to give it a chance. I was, of course, totally in the dark about what Mormonism actually was. But okay, let's watch this. And well, frankly, that's where it all began. I got hooked at that moment and start watching a lot.
Hey, tell us what I believe it or not, I'm texting Leah today because Leah's coming into town and wanted to hang out with me and Margie. So it's just a total serendipitous moment that you're mentioning Cody and Leah Young, and they're in my text chat window. What was it about that story in particular, if you remember, that was moving to you or interesting to you? Do you even remember?
I guess, like the legend of the Phoenix, a family going into my own words, rather dark place, losing faith, not being sure of how to handle maybe even life anymore, and then gradually finding the way to get out of that situation. That is, I guess, for most Never-Mormons, these stories are the easiest to relate to. We'll get to it, but for example, sometimes the episodes about Mormon history for me as a Never-Mo are a little harder.
Fair.
But the stories where people basically just tell their story and go through the process, in most cases, of a faith deconstruction and then finding out how to make sense of life again, those are the easiest to relate to. And they always tend to have a nice ending, a good ending. I guess maybe that's kind of a self-selection. If I were a Mormon and I lose my faith and I end up in the gutter, then basically I don't think I would be on your show. But that's what attracted me, I guess.
Yeah, Brooklyn. I mean, we do this every week, but it's kind of these faith journeys that we do. I could see how, from an outsider's perspective, are kind of viewed as a story of hope, of redemption, redemption, and of hope. And
I was going to say, I never think about it in terms of, the happy ending. I don't know why I hadn't looked at it in that light before, but they kind of all have happy endings, don't they? So as soon as you say that, I'm like, I can't think of one that ended on a sad note or something. And maybe if it ever did, of like, this is something going on in my life, I feel like the Mormon Stories audience has even rallied to like help those people after sharing their situation. And it's always a happy ending on this channel, isn't it?
Almost always, hopefully always. And even like the mixed faith couples or the father-daughter, like those have happy endings because they show reconciliation even with belief differences. So it's not about people leaving the church. It's just about people improving their lives, it sounds like.
I think just when people find themselves in a happy place, whatever that may be or what that means for them, like, we're all happy for you. Happy ending all the way. Yeah.
Nice.
I've tried to put into words my thoughts about the faith. Obviously, as well, I don't have a problem identifying as an atheist, but I like the term. I think it was coined by Dan Vogel, pious fraud. Is that
pious fraud? Yep.
Pious fraud?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't have a lot of patience with the behavior of Joseph Smith. I guess he was just a sexual predator.
In your opinion, I'm joking, but sort of. Yeah.
Okay, in my opinion, I'll add that.
Not another lawsuit charge for Johnny.
I don't think he can sue me.
Hey, Dallas, come and get me. I never read the Book of Mormon. I don't see a reason actually for books to be set apart. just because there is a Harry Potter book, I don't believe Harry Potter is real or Voldemort is real. That's for me the same, basically. So
hey, that might be where I draw the line. I don't know. I prefer Harry Potter to be real.
Voldemort is real?
Voldemort is right here.
I'm just living in denial about it, but sorry, just joking.
Can I just say, Brooklyn, can I just say, this is a total segue or a side thing. Brooklyn, have you ever been to the Gringotts Bank at Universal Studios in Orlando?
I've been to the Florida one time when it was all brand new. Okay. And then I've been to the Harry Potter studios, but not in California. Why?
No, Margie and I recently went to the one in Florida, the Gringotts Bank. And the Hagrid ride, they're amazing.
Yeah, that Hagrid one is what I remember. That was fun. Yeah.
No, they've got a new ride where you go into the bank and then you do a ride with dragons and everything. It's really amazing.
Oh, no, it's been so long.
You'll have to go back. Okay, sorry. Sorry for the diversion.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry about that.
Okay, that's no problem. In 2021, I also created an account on Reddit. Of course, with the TrevAnon username. And I started reading. Basically, what happened in this time is that I started learning about Mormonism, history, stories of people, and, obviously, learning about what you are doing in your podcast. And I remember at one time asking on Reddit how the teaching about eternal families being together forever, how that actually works. Because I was like, okay, if I'm going to be with my parents, they have parents too. Are they going to be with their parents? And they have parents too. Are they going to be with their parents?
Don't forget siblings. Don't forget children and siblings, and then all of them with their their
my
spouses.
Siblings are married and have kids, and some of those have kids themselves. How is
and all the in-laws
going to be? How is that even all going to work? And I remember asking that on Reddit because I was kind of confused. And one person said, well, actually, you're using simple logic to this teaching. And yes, it's true. It doesn't make any sense, which was kind of an interesting thing to hear. I do think this was in 2021, I think that I asked that. And ever since, there have been a few more people asking the very same question on ex-Mormon Reddit, which I'm happy to refer to the answer that I was given back in the day when such a thing happens. I think in August of 2021, I saw your first live episode. It's still on the YouTube channel. It was kind of a test. And in that episode, you asked the general audience to help out with creating timecodes. And what you wanted is for people to give the start and finish of any previous episodes that they thought was important, so you could decide if to make a short out of these older episodes. At first, I guess it didn't click for me, but you did another video, a short video, where you repeated that request, and all of a sudden, again, such a similar moment as in 2008 happened, which was that I felt called to say I can do this. I can help this guy, and I wanted to give something back for having consumed a lot of episodes back then. So at the end of August, I decided to create time codes for the Chris Shelton episode, the full 16 hours, and I sent you an email, and I was like, okay, this guy's probably very busy. So I want to be really sure that he actually got my email because, it would be kind of a bummer if you didn't. So I reached out to you. Hey, did you get my email? And you were like, okay, I have them. Thank you. Thanks a lot. So that was for me kind of the signal to start creating time codes for all your other episodes. I want to say here that you never personally asked me to do this work. This was just me being a volunteer. I do remember at one moment that you asked me to prioritize the episodes that had a lot of views, which of course made all the sense to me. So I did follow up on that request. So in a way, that was kind of a similar moment as what I had in May of 2008. By the way, I created the TrevAnon account on May 19th. I have no idea about your planning, but if you release this episode on the 19th of this month, I'll be 18 years old.
Oh.
Write that down, Brooklyn.
Yeah, I know. 19th, we got it.
And tell us how many videos and how many hours you've dedicated just to time codes and show notes.
I think I did about 870 episodes, and this was for a total of 1,100 hours. But of course, while listening, I have to think of the time codes and what is important and what should be in the time codes and what should not. So I had to every now and then go back a little, think of what the time code should be, and then type that and then continue. So I think probably in about a year time between the end of August and to 2021 and the beginning of December 2022, I've maybe 1,400 hours worked for that.
I mean,
something like that.
I just want to pause and I kind of alluded to this at the beginning of the episode, but we have a guy who's never been Mormon, who lives in the Netherlands, who is not getting paid. He's a volunteer, and he has personally volunteered, I'm going to say thousands of hours between time codes and show notes and now being our moderator on YouTube. He's personally decided to donate thousands of hours to support our community. And that's just, it's like touching, it's moving, it's humbling that someone would feel called, but then also follow through and be so committed to supporting us. It's kind of stunning.
You can thank my autism for that, I guess.
Or your character and your...
But also the generous spirit. There's something in there as well. Yeah, that's very kind.
Kindness.
I would still say that I don't have spent as much time for Mormon Stories as I did for researching the big list and all the other things that I did when I was more active in this anti-Scientology space. But
can I also just say, because I think it's powerful, you've never been an actual cult member. So, I just had this thought. Like, if you had asked me before I started to try and understand autism better, one way I might have described autism would be as a lack of empathy. And I know that those words are probably offensive to a lot of people.
I understand what you mean.
But the fact that you've never been a member of a cult, and yet you feel drawn to not only having an interest in a cult, but some level of compassion or care or concern for cult members, that you want to dedicate a huge portion of your life, thousands and thousands of hours of your life, uncompensated, for free, to support current and former cult members. To me, that's the definition of empathy. And that's a inspiring example of deep, profound empathy. Now, maybe I'm misjudging your motives or your character, but help me make sense of that relative to how people often what assumptions people often make about autism?
As far as I can tell, I'm not. While I have autism, I'm not especially specialized in the subject. As far as I can tell, people with autism lack the ability to, how do I explain that? To feel other people's feelings. When I see you cry, I understand that you're not happy about whatever it is. But when you're kind of sad, but you don't really show that, then I have a problem with recognizing that, while a neurotypical person probably will notice and will ask something like, John or Brooklyn, what's going on? And the reason that I started my work in the anti-Scientology community basically was because there was such a lot of abuse going on. The forced abortions that Claire talked about were already a known subject. I'm not sure if Claire herself at that moment had spoken out about that, but they were. It was known that a lot of women had to go through that. So I basically was like, this is abuse. This is just plain wrong. And I want to do something to help to, at least try and make that go away. I guess the how do I say that? Fighting abuse was my main motivator.
Wow.
And to maybe a somewhat lesser extent, that was also my motivation to start volunteering for Mormon Stories. I think the Scientology Church and the Latter-day Saint movement actually don't have a lot of real differences. Of course, there is vast difference in theology, but in the way the organizations are led and how they exercise undue influence over their members is very much the same. And that's, I guess, the main motivation for me to do this work.
Wow.
And do you feel the sadness or the concern or the empathy inside you? Is that part of what motivates you? Or is it a combination of feeling and intellect? Is it mostly logic or intellect? Is it,
It's hard to say. I'm not sure what it is that actually keeps me going. I guess it's more the intellectual side of things, understanding that people suffer, and wanting that, at least wanting to do a little bit to stop that or make that less.
Wow. We're just lucky you chose our community to put that effort into. Yeah.
You'll have to thank the YouTube algorithm for giving me the episode with Leah and Cody John.
No, I'm going to thank you for your compassion and your dedication.
Yeah, absolutely.
In 2021, as I already said, I started participating on ex-Mormon Reddit. I like to give an outside perspective, maybe sometimes also a perspective from a country that is highly secular. And, I think a lot of people in that subreddit do like people giving such a perspective. It's basically the same as what I'm doing in the chat when I'm participating when a new episode is released. At one moment, I think Maven asked me if I would be interested in an interview with her on Letter Daily Digest. I still somehow at the time was quite afraid of what Scientology maybe would do. I asked Mark Rinder for advice. I sent him an email. He was kind enough to send me an email back and basically say that I had, in his view, nothing really to worry about. I guess it took me another half a year maybe to get comfortable with the idea of me being out in the open using my real name. Well, here I am.
Yeah, congrats. That's amazing. You spoke to Mike Rinder as well.
Only for a bit, but he was, back in the day, he was aware of my work on the big list, so I guess that played a role. Yeah.
And he passed away last January.
Yeah. Exactly, yeah. So during the past 18 years, I've learned a lot about Scientology as well as Mormonism. And I thought it would be interesting to make a comparison between these two organizations. And so I've prepared a presentation about that.
Absolutely. So this is fantastic. So what we now have someone who has spent years and years and years studying Scientology, and now he in some ways he knows Mormonism better than most active, faithful Orthodox Mormons, at least from an objective outsider's perspective. And you put together kind of a comparison of how you compare the two religions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know, Brooklyn. I'm kind of fascinated. What do you think?
I'm excited. I think you're the perfect person to do this comparison.
I guess I'll just go through the comparison I've made here. My first problem was that, of course, I need to have some kind of a framework to compare religions. Just making a list of similarities, I think, isn't quite helpful. I think it is more helpful to have a list of similarities starting from a viewpoint of how to compare religions. Of course, we have the Byte model. That is mostly focused, I guess, on comparing religions from the individual's perspective, the individual member. How does this religion try to control my behavior, the information that I have access to? How does this religion try to control my thoughts and my emotions? I used a list of comparisons, a list of similarities, that I made by rewatching and, of course, using the time codes that I did for the Chris Shelton episode. I also used the episode you did with Mark and Claire Headley. The first 2 hours, basically, you're talking about similarities between the two belief systems. And what I noticed is that when you are talking with someone else about their former religion, you're using more or less marketing or an organizational perspective. Scientology does this because they want to accomplish this or that goal. So I had an education about organization, business administration, and I have been taught about the 4P marketing mix model. I never used it in my career. I basically was more into IT systems, but a very common way to analyze organizations and how they present their products and their services to prospective customers is by analyzing what is the product characteristics, what are the promotion things, where do we deliver our products or services, and of course, what is the price. I also thought it would be helpful to analyze recent changes in the marketing mix. I'll get to that later. And I guess other business considerations are also helpful to compare religions. The model is not there yet. I don't think this is much more than a first concept, maybe. While we're going through these list of similarities, I guess it will become clear how I look at this. So, the current situation, what is our product? Both Scientology and Mormonism give you as a member a goal. For Scientology, that is realizing your full potential, becoming an operating Thetan. For Mormonism, I guess that would be families being together forever and going to the celestial kingdom. Of course, both religions have a lot of teachings. For Scientology, that is past lives. There are future lives for the Seed Org people. That's the billion-year contract that Claire and Mark explained. When you sign the billion-year contract, you promise to come back for the next billion years of your future lives. Mm-hmm. The whole thing of past lives and future lives is called the whole track. And I guess more or less the comparable thing in Mormonism is the pre-existence and life in the celestial kingdom.
Exaltation correct? Or eternal life, eternal salvation.
Feel free to correct me anything I say something wrong.
Yeah.
Mark explained about one's journal 67 and about the confidential levels that Scientology has. These are the operating Thetan 1 through 8 levels. That includes the Xenu story as depicted on South Park. Of course, Mormonism also has rituals, the temple rituals that are confidential. Not everyone gets to experience them. And the second anointing is, of course, a ritual that only a few people get to have. Mm-hmm. Both belief systems threaten you with all kinds of bad things when you learn about the secret things. For OT3, that you will get pneumonia and die. And I think in the episode with Mark and Claire, John, you said that seeing the plates will kill you. Is that true?
That was what Joseph Smith told. That was the justification Joseph Smith used to tell people he couldn't show them the golden plates, that they were so filled with God's power that they would die if they beheld them.
Okay, yeah.
I think.
That's interesting.
Is that sound right, Brooklyn? That's my memory.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I would have said growing up too. Yeah, I feel like you never are taught some like super sophisticated story of it, but just that like if they saw the plates, it'd be too overwhelming and die or something. Like, yeah, that's what I would have thought.
But also Christianity, I think, teaches that if you see God's face, you'll die. Mm-hmm. That if that's having a divine encounter can be so powerful it can kill you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
it's a lot of process.
So we also have the condition of doubt, what it's called in Scientology, where you basically get a list of steps that you have to take whenever you are in some kind of a situation where you doubt. It's called the doubt formula. In Mormonism, you have to doubt your doubts. That's one of the things one of the Q12 members, I think, said. Claire talked about never question source, and the Mormon equivalent for that would be that the prophet won't lead you astray. In both belief systems, in a way, also claim that you can eventually become a god yourself. Mm-hmm. So that's a short list of the teachings for both systems that I took from these episodes. I would like to add here that maybe it's, if you create a religion yourself, don't try this at home, kids, but But if you create a religion, then it maybe is an idea to put in some kind of teaching about sex or masturbation or that kind of thing, because as someone who maybe wants to lead a cult, you'll get members to screw up on whatever your exact teachings are, and so they will come back to you for the to be healed from whatever sins they
they're creating the problem, then offering the solution, like we like to
exactly.
say. Mm-hmm.
Both systems have an explanation for why we do bad things. In Scientology, these are engrams and body thetans. And I think this is again you, John, in the episodes you did with Claire and Mark. Spirits in the pre-existence being cast out, becoming followers of Satan and going to Earth. So I thought that was kind of a parallel or a similarity. Mm-hmm. Both systems have, maybe it's not really useful to go through the exact details, but they have both prescriptions for how to live. Erasing engrams is a thing in Scientology. Going to church is something in Mormonism. You have overts and withholds in Scientology, which is more like the sin concept in Mormonism. When I am reading this, I also think that maybe someone with a theology degree may have more to say about this, on more formal systems on when you are comparing religions. So I'd be happy to learn about that from people, for example, in the comments.
I'll just say that sin in Mormonism is very much associated with evil spirits tempting or influencing you. And that sounds very much like thetans to me, or thetans. Mm-hmm. And then, like taking the sacrament or praying or repenting, in effect, you're casting out or trying to cast out from you the influence of these satanic or evil spirits.
The thetan is what you actually are, I guess. The concept of overts and withholds is more like what is sin. Overts and withholds are things that you're not telling in auditing session to your auditor.
Got it.
And security checks are basically the same process as auditing, but they are there to find out what overts and withholds or bad things that you did. So they are kind of similar to confessions.
Okay, so both groups are tempted by external spirits. Both groups have sins that they commit where they hide, they do bad things and or they hide it. Both have to do some sort of form of confession with an approved church leader to repent and eventually, hopefully, be cleaned of the influence of these evil spirits.
And in Scientology, the latter is called making amends, and in Mormonism, that is kind of the repentance process.
Repentance process, yeah.
In both belief systems, you want others to learn about the beautiful things of Scientology, respectively Mormonism. And in Scientology, you do that through auditing other people. You do that. So there are two parts to the bridge of total freedom. The one part is the auditing part, where you get auditing yourself, and the other is the training part, where you learn how to train, how to audit someone else. I think Mark talked about that, how he was basically a guinea pig for Tom Cruise to learn how to audit. Of course, in Mormonism, you have more or less the same thing. You have missions where you go on a mission to convince other people of how beautiful the religion is. And I guess in a way you could also say that having a calling in the church is another way to help fellow members of the religion to be engaged in the religion. Maybe you could say more about that, but that was something that I took from that. In Scientology, you have what is called success stories. After you've finished a course, you're expected to give a success story and tell what you learned from the course. I guess that's more or less comparable to a testimony meeting, where you basically say that I know the church is true. Both religions have an emphasis on statistics. There are, there are elementary courses in Scientology that are basically the cheese in the trap. They have a communication course. That's basically the first course that you can do. It's about, I don't know, $50. And it teaches you basic ways to have better communication with family members and whoever. I would say that for Mormonism, the cheese in the trap is that families are forever.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking the same thing.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Even though we act like that's not a thing in other religions as well, and like it's special to us, but
that only Mormons get to be with their families forever in heaven. Yeah. That's the cheese in the trap.
Another interesting similarity is that Scientology is preserving Hubbard's speeches on gold records that are written words on titanium plates. And Mark talked about how they even have sun-powered cassette and record players. I was not aware of that until he mentioned it, but in a way it makes sense because, of course, after the Earth has gone down in a nuclear
apocalypse
thing, then we need Scientology to make things right again. I guess that's more or less comparable to the genealogy effort by a lot of LDS members. So I think that was on my previous sheet. So genealogy helps at the bottom, and so everyone will be baptized in the millennium after Jesus' return. Now we have basically more or less defined what our product is. It may sound a bit weird in the context of religion to just view it as a product, but I hope I make sense here.
Were you going to say something, Brooklyn?
Sorry. I mean, it was like off topic. It just got me thinking, like, have you ever done any major series on genealogy? I feel like that's another topic.
The only thing I've done, and just weirdly, I saw the guy at the gym this last week. I'm forgetting his name right now, but he worked in, member records, or he worked in the department. Actually, no, I'm thinking of somebody else. But several years ago, we interviewed someone who worked at church headquarters, and he was
Don Cassius?
What's that?
Don Cassius. He worked at the temple. He talked about how there are different how the names for new names at the temple. At one moment, almost the list was almost.
How the church didn't track it's people who's had their work done for them through Work for the Dead. They didn't track that very well, so that lots and lots and lots, thousands or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people had their work done multiple times, whether it was their baptism or their sealing or their endowments. The church for many, many years allowed people's work to be done for them multiple times, which meant that all the members would go and spend an hour or two each week thinking that they were doing an important ordinance work for dead people, when in reality, and then like Hitler had his work done for him 8 or 10 times, and he had been sealed to Eva Braun.
He's taken care of.
Want to make sure Hitler's really baptized well.
Okay.
I mean, I just think genealogy would be fascinating, almost to do a series on, and like food storage, like these funny random obsessions with Mormonism that probably Never members don't realize the significance of. Because such a big part of my life is genealogy for some reason.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think that was more important than food storage, but yeah.
Okay, well now currently we're still defining what are products, what are religion.
Can I just say really quick, I'm sorry, I just want to just add one thing, Corry, that talking about Mormonism as a business, for me, is the best way to explain Mormonism because, just take child sex abuse cover-ups. If Jesus is really your guide, there's no way on earth that you as a church would handle child sex abuse the way that the Mormon Church handles it. The only way to explain the way the Mormon Church acts with its lawyers, the fact that it uses lawyers as historians, the only way to explain that, the fact that the most prevalent profession in the Quorum of the 12 and the First Presidency is attorneys. 2/3 of the First Presidency right now are attorneys. The only way to explain that is that the church operates first and foremost like a business, and then secondly or distantly as a church. And the best testament of all is the fact that the Mormon Church is worth between $300 and $500 billion. How else can you describe the church and its motives and its behavior? As Jesus said, wherever your treasure is, there will your heart be also. So the fact that the church is suing Mormon Stories over trademark and copyright legal justifications shows that the church's primary concern, it's like McDonald's or Nike or Sony. The Mormon Church is a corporation and a business first, and I would say a religion as 10th or 20th in its list of priorities. So anyway, you don't have to apologize to us, Corry, for talking about Mormonism in terms of product and brand management.
Well, maybe, just maybe, if there is a believing member watching.
No, I mean, be a believer, but I mean, it's literally called the Corporation of the President of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. That's the name. That's the official name of the church.
I'll come back to that later, but okay. I would like to point out that for a believing member, it may be kind of worrisome to see how many similarities there are between Mormonism and Scientology.
Sure.
I mean, Scientology is obviously totally bad. Why would the Mormon Church want to be compared to that?
Yeah.
And see how many similarities there are.
Yeah.
I'm now on the third page of comparing the two products, so to say.
Yes.
Who do we worship? Well, obviously, L. Ron Hubbard is very important in Scientology. David Miscavige, more or less, I would say, tries to take over his place. In Mormonism, of course, you have God and Jesus and mostly baby Joseph Smith. But also, I would say that, for example, in Scientology, the people who have done OT8 are more or less seen as gods or something. That's at least how an ex-member of Scientology at one moment explained it to me. I guess that is more or less comparable to how the current prophet, First Presidency, and the apostles are seen. And sometimes in the case of someone like David Bednar, how they expect to be treated.
Where everyone has to stand up when they walk in the room. If that's not worship, what is, right?
That kind of thing. Of course, both religious systems have rituals, rites of passage. In Scientology, that would be course completions. I know they have a marriage procedure because on their channel, Mark and Claire at one moment did show their own marriage video. I guess in Mormonism, you would have things like baby blessing, baptism, baptisms for the dead, the mission, sealing, and funeral, and
also priesthood ordination.
For the women, your young women's medallion that felt like progress point check. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm sure when you were to analyze this table somewhat deeper than we maybe can.
No, you're doing great. This is great.
This episode, both you as Mormons or ex-Mormons, however you want to identify yourself, and Scientologists would be able to add all kinds of things. In Scientology, there's all kinds of traditions. The LRH birthday, Dianetics Day in 2 days, which May 9th was the day that the Dianetics book was published in 1950. So they still have a Dianetics Day for that. Maiden Voyage is an important day in Scientology. The Freewinds ship did its maiden voyage in the past on June 6th, and ever since they have almost every year, I think, they have a special day for that. There are several others, and of course in Mormonism, Pioneer Day, Christmas, and I think also Easter, maybe things like Pentecostal and Ascension Day are things in Mormonism. I'm not sure about that.
We definitely care about Christmas and Easter. We have Pioneer Day.
Religions, yeah, and then of course we've got our Pioneer Day, which I love that you got that down there. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a statewide holiday for Mormons and non-Mormons alike.
And both religious systems, in a way, have all kinds of mythology. L. Ron Hubbard claims that he found Dianetics and he cured himself of several nasty diseases or whatever it was. And in Mormonism, towards the end of his life, I understood you, John, to explain how Joseph Smith's claims were getting bolder and bolder. And there is a condemnation of the natural man. The latter I don't really understand, but I guess in both systems you have stories about things that maybe aren't exactly real or are myths.
Absolutely.
This is the fourth slide where we compare the two products. I guess in a way you could say, especially in Scientology, there is an us versus them mentality within the system itself. Things like fair game and disconnection are pretty much part of Scientology scripture. I think I earlier mentioned the PTSSP course that Scientology has. It basically explains how PTS people, potential trouble sources, are things that you should not be in contact with, or and especially suppressive people are people that you should not be in contact with. More or less, I guess Mormonism has the same things. Excommunication obviously is a thing. Russell Nelson has talked about how we are not supposed to take counsel from those who don't believe. I think he did a lot of damage with saying that. And there's a shunning culture. It's maybe not exactly in scripture for the Mormonism like it is in Scientology, but definitely both systems tend to teach their members to stay away from people who have left the faith.
I'm just going to interject really quickly. Sometimes people like to see our faces, and sometimes people like to see the actual words. What we're going to do is we're going to upload these PDFs and put them on in the show notes. And instead of people wanting to read these words on the screen, we're going to invite them to just launch the PDF and follow along the PDF as we talk about it, so that we don't have to, in the screen, keep jumping back and forth. So I'm just going to warn people, that should be the way you visually view what Trevor or Corry is showing. Go ahead, keep going.
Okay. Now, the second P in the marketing mix model is how do we promote our religion? Scientology, of course, has personality tests, stress tests. They also have book 1 or the Dianetics book. They used to have and they still have, I think, the I Am a Scientologist campaign. And
that's important that they did that before Mormonism. Yeah. So we think the I'm a Mormon campaign was original.
I believe, is the one who really championed that.
Who?
In Scientology, Mike Rinder, I believe, came up with I'm a Scientologist.
And then we stole that campaign when we did I'm a Mormon. Yeah.
And on the Mormonism side of the table that I'm showing here is, of course, when I am interested in becoming a member, I basically start with the missionary discussions, and missionaries will offer me the Book of Mormon. I deliberately did not mention the I Am a Mormon campaign here. It might change in the future because it will come up in a next slide. Both religions tend to be proud of whoever celebrities that are members of. For Scientology, that, by the way, is a very small number. We always mention Tom Cruise and John Travolta, but when you make a list of any celebrity that is, well, let's say A-list or maybe B-list, then the total list is no longer than maybe 40 or 50 people. On his blog, Tony Ortega has made a list of people who would maybe seen as celebrities, and I think a few of those names I never heard of while I've been around this space for 18 years now. So I guess, well, Tom Cruise obviously is very famous, but there are people who are called celebrities that maybe aren't. On the side of Mormonism, you have, of course, the Osmonds that we already talked about. I think there are other, I would say that there are other celebrities who are still members. There's also members, of course, there's also ex-members, of course, which I will show in the next slide. The thing about Scientology is that they, for years, have not said anything real about their membership number. In the past, they used to say they had millions of members, and again, they never had that many. And their current PR is about the numbers of square feet for their Scientology orgs, which is basically their churches. Imagine the Mormon church advertising the number of square feet for the churches that they open. It's acreage. It's kind of a ridiculous thing.
Or acreage that they own.
Yeah.
As the second largest private landowner in the United States, imagine if we bragged about our real estate ownership acreage.
Yeah.
For Mormonism, we only know kind of whitewashed membership statistics. We don't get to hear about, for example, the number of tithe-paying members, or the number of members that are actually visiting church.
Yeah.
And that, I guess, would be more helpful than just saying that Mormonism has like 18 million members, because frankly, we do know that's not actually what is the current situation.
Yeah.
Okay. Both Scientology and Mormonism have things that we do not want you to know.
Wait, really quick. I just want to highlight, I don't know if we missed it, but the idea that L. Ron Hubbard's life is whitewashed to Scientologists is similar to how Joseph Smith's life has been whitewashed to Mormons and to the general public. I don't know if we missed that slide, or that part of the slide.
I didn't read it out loud, but yes, it's on the slides.
That's really important, I think, and that's one of the main reasons we do Mormon Stories, is to help the Joseph Smith podcast series or the LDS discussion series is just all about informed consent and letting Mormons know about their own founding prophet, honestly. So that's important.
Okay, both organizations do have a few things that they don't want you to know about. Both Scientology and Mormonism don't want you to know about church finances. I guess Mormonism also doesn't want you to know about the SEC scandal. As far as I'm aware, Scientology didn't have a similar thing. Both organizations do not want you to know about the real membership statistics, the real history of the church, and the real history of the founder. And while Scientology likes it when you know about Tom Cruise and John Travolta and who not to be members, they do not want you to know that to get celebrities in was a deliberate strategy from the beginning. There's even, I think, a policy letter or something like that by L. Ron Hubbard that says that Scientologists need to do what's in their power to get celebrities in, to get more attention for the subject. Both organizations don't want you to know about their critics. And about organizations such as, in Scientology's case, the Michael J. Rinder Aftermath Foundations. And I guess Dallin Oaks is now meeting the Streisand effect when he sues the Open Stories Foundation, because I guess it has been helpful for a lot of members to learn about Mormon Stories' existence. And we'll see how that goes in the future. If people are starting to watch your show, then maybe they will soon find out that you're sometimes very critical of the church, but maybe they'll learn something about their religion that they were previously unaware of. I guess in both cases, both Scientology and Mormonism, it becomes a disadvantage when a celebrity decides to speak out. Leah Remini, in the case of Scientology, of course, is an obvious example because she did the documentary series. But a few others are Larry Anderson and Michael Fairman, who have both since left and spoken out against Scientology. They are both also on the big list. In a way, I guess Mormonism doesn't tell members about how people like Tyler Glenn, Wayne Sherman, Benny Schwimmer, David Archuleta, how they left the church.
Dan Reynolds, Heather Gay.
And of course, more people.
Yeah.
An interesting fact, of course, is that both religions have a South Park episode. I don't know if they really like it, but I'm not aware if the Jehovah's also have an episode.
I don't know. It's a good question.
Yeah, I wonder. There's got to be a few references throughout the years.
The Masons do. The Masonic Lodge has an episode of the Simpsons.
Yeah. Okay,
not of South Park, but of the Simpsons.
Mark explained in the episode that you did with him and Claire that Scientology has a distorted view on ethics. Criticize Miscavige and Gerard. Debbie Cook, I mentioned her earlier, was one of the people who was kicked out for criticizing Miscavige. And being a pedophile when you're in Scientology is pretty much okay as long as you pay the bill. I guess more or less this is the same for Mormonism. It's kind of sad to say that, but it is a similarity that I think is, real. Mm-hmm. Okay, where do we deliver our religion? Scientology has missions where you can basically get the introductory courses. They have Ideal Orgs where you can do auditing up to the level of clear. For me, I think the nearest org is in Amsterdam. In 2008, I went there for a moment. I didn't give them my real name. I also didn't buy a book, but I got a tour of the Scientology org. It's kind of helped me to understand why people fall for a religious system like Scientology, or maybe even also Mormonism. The upper levels, OT1 through 5, you can do in advanced orgs. There are, I think, 5 or 6 of them all over the world. For me, the nearest would be in Copenhagen, Denmark. There's in Florida, there's the Flag Land Base, where you can do OT 6 and 7. And on the ship, the Free Winds, you can do the last level that Scientology offers, which is the OT 8 level. Mormonism more or less has comparable things that churches are for, let's say, regular services, and temples are for the initiated into the people initiated into the having the endowment, having their endowment taken out. Scientology also has a separate kind of organization for celebrities. They are called the celebrity centers. I'm not really sure. I think at celebrity centers you can, like at orgs, do Scientology up to the level of clear. Once as a celebrity you start on your OT levels, I guess you would have to go to the advanced orgs and the other two.
Let me just jump in, just because I Googled it, just to give an update. The Jehovah's Witnesses apparently do have a South Park episode.
That's great.
According to Google,
yeah,
it's season 17, episode 1, Let Go, Let Gov. So
okay, that's really nice to hear.
You've arrived as a high-demand religion or cult if you've got your own South Park episode.
That's exactly what I was thinking, yeah. Mormonism has a thing, had a thing, I should say, which is the announcement of new temples on pretty much every general conference. And the Scientology equivalent for that would be the ideal org program. Scientology has, I don't know, maybe 100 or something orgs around the world. A lot of them are rather small, and when the Scientology members in a given area are able to collect enough money and give that to Scientology, then Scientology will buy some building at a fancy place, renovate it so it's all glitzy and whatnot, and they will then use that as the new org for that given country or area. It's a very expensive program, and sometimes it takes decades from the very start of trying to get an ideal org in a certain area to the actual opening. Of course, for every opening, David Miscavige is going to show up, and it's going to be a lot of fanfare and hoopla and whatever. But after he has gone, in most cases, the ideal orgs tend to be quite empty, which, if I remember correctly, was a reason for Chris Shelton to start questioning Scientology when he was still in. He moved through several Scientology churches, ideal orgs, and he always saw how they were basically empty. And every org seems to think that they are the only one that is in big trouble and not getting the statistics they are supposed to get. But when you visit several orgs and you see they are all empty, then I get that is maybe a first step in start to doubt your faith.
Yeah. No, I think Claire and Mark Headley spoke about that as well, of that being an issue for them too, of the empty centers.
Yes, I think he spoke about how he had to install all kind of audiovisual systems in different orgs and found basically all were empty. Yeah, I remember that.
So I think he got the perspective where you're saying that they kind of probably think, oh, we're the only ones that's empty, but he got the perspective of going around to all of them and seeing this is a pervasive problem. No one's attending, or buildings are empty. Yeah, just an interesting point.
Okay, last P in the marketing mix is what price do we charge? And of course, Scientology has course donations for the IAS, which is their association for Scientology members. They have donations for buildings, but they also have non-monetary price to pay for members, because you have to invest a lot of time to be audited yourself or to learn how to audit others. Mormonism, I guess, more or less has similar things. The 10% tithing thing, the mission, 1.5 year or 2 years for a total of time that you have to invest to get other people to join the religion.
I always say missions are the closest thing Mormons have to Sea Org.
Yeah, that's an interesting.
That's a good point.
As it comes through the list, I was like, what are we going to compare to Sea Org? Because that is kind of its own thing within Scientology. But that is a really good comparison.
I could have maybe added here on the Scientology side that you can be a Scientology member and be public, which means that you just pay for any courses that you do. But you can also become a volunteer at a Scientology org, where you have a 2.5 or 5 year contract. And the most dedicated members are the Sea Org members, as you mentioned.
Yeah,
I think it's interesting for both Scientology to look at what recent changes they had in their marketing mix. So in the slides before, I explained about similarities on the face of on the subject of products or the promotion or the place or the price. And I guess for Mormonism, there are quite a lot of changes in the past few years. Maybe the I Am a Mormon campaign will come back again, I guess.
Wouldn't that be funny?
Too soon.
Too soon? For Scientology, they had all kinds of repackaging of old books. I think Mark also talked about that, the Golden Age of Tech 1 and 2. There are other campaigns where they basically just repackage old books and try to sell them again. And don't get me wrong, because when you have the old books, you will be pressured into buying the new books, even if the differences between the different the prints are no more than small things or anything.
Yeah,
like
they might change commas or something and call it a new edition, and now everyone has to get this new edition. And I think people don't recognize that within Scientology. You're not just buying those courses once. You have to continue to buy those books over and over again, and they just continue.
And they even have a library campaign where you buy books, but you don't get the books yourself. They are then gifted to libraries in your neighborhood, and I think in a lot of cases those libraries are just like, what is this nonsense? We don't need that, and they throw them in the bin or whatever.
Oh goodness, yeah.
It's an enormous waste of money. And of course, Scientology itself is the only organization that gets any money out of it. The place where Scientology is delivered to you, as I mentioned, these are orgs. There have been stories of merging orgs, which is a big no-no, as I understand it. Every org also has what's called a day and a night foundation, which basically is a day shift and a night shift. And in some cases, I think I heard about Scientology merging the Day and Night Foundation, making it one org. That's, as I said, a big no-no in Scientology. The ideal org strategy it is about focusing on new buildings instead of auditing. I think there is a remark by L. Ron Hubbard where he says that if Scientology becomes about buildings and stuff, then he wants his own members to blow up headquarters or something like that. It's really ridiculous.
Ouch.
And what we see now is that Miscavige is implementing a policy that is in direct contrast to what L. Ron Hubbard himself said, as this is how I understand it. And like I said, L. Ron Hubbard wanted Scientology members to focus on auditing, and what David Miscavige just found out was that just asking for donations was a lot easier. Giving your wife polygamy, that's also a price in a way that you could say that in the distant past that Mormonism asked. Joseph Smith would try to convince married couples to be sealed to the woman. And of course, I can imagine that for a believing member who is the husband in the situation, that is a very high price to pay. I'm aware that this is something from the beginning of the previous century, so it's not a recent change. But I do think it is a way to get your members to pay a price to be a member of the religion.
We kind of jumped past it, but I just want to really slow down and note that, again, the way I remember the Going Clear documentary ending is Scientology, lots of money, lots of buildings, less and less members. And it's interesting because here in Utah, which is supposed to be Mormon Central, kind of Mormon Vatican, they're shutting down and selling and closing chapels and stake centers monthly. Monthly, you hear about in Salt Lake County, LDS stakes being shut down or merged with other stakes. And in Washington and in California and in Utah, you're seeing buildings being sold off. So on the one hand, it seems like the church is trying to close, merge stakes and wards and shut down and sell buildings. But the exception to that is just this crazy building of temples that Russell M. Nelson started, to the point where people are going to start wondering why some random Texas town like Plano has a temple when there's just a handful of members there. And so in some ways, the church is trying to sell off its buildings while it grows its commercial real estate. It's selling its religious real estate at a frantic pace, but then it's actually purchasing more temples and more real estate for temples, at least in part because I think the church believes that temples are good for branding and marketing because they're such auspicious, loud, bright, gaudy buildings that really make a statement. And I also think they found that members tend to pay more tithing if there's a temple built locally. So the church has gotten weird with real estates and building. That's kind of just something I wanted to note.
That is interesting.
I think at the moment, at a previous episode, you talked about how they were planning maybe a new temple here in the Netherlands. I'm not sure about that.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I want to note that there are 10,000 people on the records here in the Netherlands, and with an activity rate of say something like 22 or 25%.
So
That
2,000 active Mormons in the Netherlands.
That would mean that we have 2,200 to 2,500 active members here. I have no idea if building a new temple for that low of a number of members would be in any way sensible.
Well, interestingly, I made this point to Rebecca Biblioteca the other day. The church stopped building temples when there was a justification of active membership to justify it. They've changed to sort of the Field of Dreams, if we build it, they will come model. They're not building temples as a manifestation of membership growth. They're building temples in hopes of strengthening current membership devotion and of hopefully driving future membership growth. So my question to you is, if the church builds another massively gaudy, expensive, bright, shiny Mormon temple in the Netherlands, do you think that will convince more Dutch to join the church?
Oh, absolutely not.
No?
No.
Why not?
The Netherlands will come back to that later, maybe in the next episode or later in this episode. Is very secular. I don't think the Mormon Church will find a lot of new members here,
even with the 20
existing members to become more engaged with the religion.
Even if they build a $20 million temple.
I don't think so. I do want to note something else, and which is I'm not familiar with the laws regarding 501c3s in the United States, but from what I understand, these organizations have to spend at least some part of the money that they get from their members. And I guess building temples, especially if they are very expensive, is kind of a way to actually spend some money to comply with tax law. Maybe it's an idea to get someone who is specialized in United States tax laws on your podcast to talk about how Mormon Church and maybe other churches as well have to spend part of their income.
Well, the one problem there is just enforcement. There's so many nonprofits. They're hard to regulate. And if you add to that how pro-religion and pro-Christianity the United States is, they just don't do anything that would ever make any religion mad. That's my impression. Brooklyn, I don't know if you have a different impression.
I mean, you're going to be the expert on it. I mean, I will say is slightly off what you're saying, but just my thoughts when you're thinking all of this, because my brain immediately goes to what I would have thought of all of this as a Mormon. As an LDS member, I would say we need all of these temples for the restoration because of the I mean, and this
I like the millennium. You're saying the millennium?
Yes, right? Where it's like, I don't know specifically how to phrase all of it, but I was taught, that for Jesus to return, Jesus won't return until you can stand on the steeple of one LDS temple and see the next steeple within
oh my gosh.
Your vision distance. Yeah, and then if you stood on that steeple, you should be able to see the next temple. And I was taught that Jesus won't return until that has happened. So as a Mormon, I would be like, get these temples up. I want Jesus coming back, I don't know if that is an actual motivation or if it is more a business mindset from them. It would be really interesting.
I learn something new every day.
It's interesting. It's one of those funny things where it's like, I don't know this specific, I don't know. You're just taught that one thing. So then I believe that as a Mormon, that Jesus isn't coming back till we have all those temples, Yeah.
That's awesome.
Okay. I'll continue with some more similarities between the two belief systems. In both cases, I think it is interesting. There is a science fiction writer at the beginning. I guess it's fair to say that Joseph Smith wrote science fiction, but also that L. Ron Hubbard, and I wasn't exactly aware of it, but Mark mentioned it in his episode, that Ron Miscavige Sr., David Miscavige's dad, found 11 books where LRH, as he is called, took his ideas from. I wasn't unaware of that. So basically what L. Ron Hubbard did was plagiarizing other people's stories or ideas, which is more or less what Joseph Smith maybe also did.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting. Yeah.
The OT3 story talks about volcanoes that didn't exist. For example, I think in OT3 there is a volcano on Hawaii. I'm not sure about that. But from what I understand, that never existed in the first place to begin with. So, yeah, obviously the Book of Mormon has plenty of anachronisms. Another similarity would be if our leaders and management sincere. And both Chris Shelton in his episode, as well as Mark and Claire in their episodes, said that L. Ron Hubbard at the end believed his own, I've shortened it here to BS. I already mentioned how Joseph Smith is sometimes maybe seen as a pious fraud. Mike Rinder had, I guess, an astute observation about it. How relevant is it? If your product, your religion is faulty, it is faulty. So what do I care if L. Ron Hubbard believed his own teachings?
I mean, I guess that there's people that find social or community or moral or familial value in their membership. And if they can find a way to say, yeah, Joseph deceived people, but he wasn't intentionally, knowingly deceiving people. He believed his own press. He believed his own visions. And so even though he was involved in deception, his heart was in the right place and he wanted to bring people to Christ. And he just felt like sometimes deception. And I think there's decent evidence to show that God in the Bible is okay with deception and even murder sometimes to achieve his purposes. And so it's a way to salvage Joseph Smith and Mormon affiliation by saying, okay, yeah, there was fraud, but he meant well and he was still inspired by God. That's why.
Yeah, I have a problem with that. I would compare that to murder in the first degree versus involuntary manslaughter. In both cases, someone dies. It's really bad.
Yeah.
That's how I would say it.
Sure.
Okay. This is maybe a less convincing thing. I'm trying to look at both belief systems from a business perspective, and both belief systems have stories about seeking treasure. Now, that may be a fun similarity between the two systems, but I do not necessarily think that it is, from a business perspective, an interesting thing. But I just wanted to include all the similarities that I found. So here they are. Both belief systems have the church as being a part of an ecosystem. In Scientology, that is the World Institute. The Chris Shelton talked about the, or was it Mark? I don't remember. Talked about the three bells, which was, I guess, what we did when we still have used a lot of paper. Scientology has an ethics systems in place, and well, maybe like the Mormon Church, the Scientology Church tries to outsource tasks to companies that are being run by Scientologists, and maybe vice versa. I guess more or less in the same way, this is the case for Mormonism as well.
Got it.
Okay. Both organizations had to deal with several financial issues. L. Ron Hubbard had to deal with people like Campbell and Winter, who at one moment turned against him. L. Ron Hubbard at one moment got bankrupt. This was the financial collapse of Dianetics. And after that, I think Chris Shelton, if I understood that right, started a movement called Theta for a very short time. But in the end, L. Ron Hubbard, of course, starts Scientology. In the 60s, I think Scientology lost its tax-exempt status, but they regained it in 1993 when they basically forced the IRS and the people working there through hundreds of court cases to eventually give in. It's, if you ask me, one of the big scandals that the US sadly has had to deal with back then. It's really bad. For Mormonism, I guess it's fair to say that early co-founders of the church decided to start their own movements or whatever, or just leave when Joseph Smith went off the rails. There was the Kirtland time period of Joseph Smith. If I remember correctly, he opened a bank that went bankrupt. Is that true?
Yeah, the Kirtland Bank. Yep.
In more recent times, the Mormonism had to deal with the SEC scandal. So both organizations had to deal with financial issues through their history.
Yeah. So really quickly, just to summarize, this is really key. And I remember realizing this talking to Chris Shelton and others. Both founders, L. Ron Hubbard and Joseph Smith, started out by writing fiction. Both, so they both started out as fiction writers. Both have been involved in treasure digging, right? Both have experienced significant fraud, in their histories, and significant, financial distress and turmoil, and legal problems, right?
Exactly.
And then major revolts of high-level leaders in the church, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. And whitewashing history and, whitewashing membership statistics. I'm kind of recapping and summarizing, but when you place all that together, and we're going to be talking about more, those are a lot of parallels.
Yes, exactly. As I said, I guess the LDS Church is not going to like to see this comparison. It's pretty bad.
Yeah.
Both organizations did not really have a succession plan, so there were power struggles when the founder died.
Yeah.
And what you already mentioned is the legal structure. As you said, the corporation of the President of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I think I previously heard about International Reserve, or what's the name, that holds the copyrights.
Yeah.
Scientology, Author Services Incorporated holds the copyrights of the fiction books that Hubbard wrote, and I think that the Church of Spiritual Technology holds the copyrights of the so-called religious scripture, as I understand it.
So both rely heavily on copyright.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I guess it's also interesting to know how that both have a publications branch. Scientology has Bridge Publications and New Era Publications. Bridge Publications, if I remember correctly, is in California. New Era Publications is the publisher which is based in Copenhagen, Denmark. Scientology has a rag, basically, that is Freedom Magazine. They use that mostly to smear ex-members. I think you could, as a parallel, talk about how Deseret Industries is the commercial part of the Mormon church. I'm not sure how to explain that in English, but I guess there's another parallel there. And here's a question that I have, because Scientology has several front organizations. Narganon, which is about helping people who are addicted to drugs, actually not helping them. Crimenon, which is to get people who have committed crimes to get their life together again. The Way to Happiness is a very simple, let's say, kind of Ten Commandment thing. When I visited the Amsterdam org, I got a leaflet with the actual commands, for lack of a better word, that L. Ron Hubbard advises people to live a good life. Don't lie, don't murder people, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Scientology also has Youth for Human Rights and the Citizens Commissions for Human Rights, and they also have a thing called volunteer ministers, who do not actually volunteer a lot for to help actually help people, but they mostly are used to create PR material for publishing how Scientology is doing a lot of good around the world. So their volunteer efforts are not very, very, very great. There's not a lot of people who are participating in that. I am not aware, though, of any Mormonism equivalents of these organizations.
Well, so just to kind of recap this slide, yeah, lots, there's land reserve, there's intellectual reserve, there's Ensign Peak, all these secret, corporate entities. There's so many billions and billions of dollar kind of shell companies and corporations that manage the church's assets. The Deseret Trust Company was the one that I was thinking about, that Roger Hendricks used to be a board member of. So what Scientology and the Mormon Church share are these massive bureaucratic corporate structures to protect and preserve and grow its massive corporate wealth. The publishing arms, they both have massive publishing arms to do, some would say, news and education. Others would say indoctrination. Clearly the Deseret News is not a respectable newspaper by any stretch. It's become a propaganda arm for the church. And I don't say that in a gleeful way. And then I think what you're calling attention to is that Scientology, its humanitarian efforts are there for good public relations. Exactly. But yes. they're actually funnels. Well, they're sort of attempts to manage their image, and they're also attempts to funnel people into membership. And the best example I have of that is like Mormons Helping Hands. And I think that's, where the Mormons would all wear yellow vests, and they would go during a hurricane and clean up during a hurricane, but they would all wear their yellow vests.
John?
Yes.
Can you guess what the color of the volunteer minister's shirts is?
Don't say yellow.
It's yellow.
Oh my goodness. It's like we share the same consultants, the same lawyers, the same accountants, and the same consultants we've got to share, right?
who did it first. One of them surely copied off the other because they love to share the success.
Okay.
That's wild.
Too
Yeah.
funny.
Brooklyn, can you think of any other humanitarian? I know that missionaries in recent years, Mormon missionaries have been encouraged to do more humanitarian work as a way to gain more converts. So I know there's been a trend there. Are you aware of other humanitarian? I mean, obviously the church has tried to step up its humanitarian efforts in the past several years.
Formal organizations, I feel like we mostly hit them all. But I mean, I think volunteer work is just a big part of, I think that is one of the beautiful parts of Mormonism. It's very encouraged all the time, even just in ways that, like, I wasn't particularly doing things through the church, but I was volunteering all the time growing up, just because it felt like the right thing to do, you know, volunteering at the hospital. So I think more just like in the daily lives of people, but then also things like half of the mutual events you do, which is, you know, the young men and young women coming together, is like some volunteer thing that you're doing, which is great. Or, you know, the number of times that we as a mutual event went and picked up trash down the side of the highway, you know, for the event. So I think that's a good part. And then, I mean, you have, like, it's not a thing anymore, but I would have said, like, the Boy Scouts, you know, in getting your Eagle Project, you've got to do a lot of volunteer work. But that's, I guess, not as much of a thing anymore. But in my era, that's what I would have thought of as the main, like, and when you're getting your Young Women's Medallion, you've got to do a certain amount of volunteer work. But
I don't think, you know, I think that when Mormons do service, and even when Mormon leaders encourage service, we have to just grant there's a sincere effort to help the world. So we're not, I don't think our message here is that all Mormon service projects are fake and bad and self-serving.
Yeah.
What I do think Mormons have a long...
I would want to add that I have no doubt that by far most Scientology members do want to help make life better on the whole planet in their case. Yeah,
sure. And I think that's what gets a lot of Scientologists especially really locked in, is because that's the message of Scientology, of like, we are changing the world. We're doing something bigger. We're doing something different. If you want to be a part of something, bringing more to the world than you're doing now, then you get these people that are drawn to those values that get locked into that system because of their desire to do good. 100%.
The two caveats I would give that I think are fair criticisms, well, maybe three. One is that historically Mormon service has been largely self-directed. So when I used to volunteer at the cannery growing up, in the peanut butter cannery in Houston, that was to make peanut butter that would go to Mormons who were poor and needed peanut butter. So a lot of Mormon service historically has been geared towards helping other Mormons. The second thing is the Mormon Church was on record as doing very little humanitarian efforts until the Ensign Peak scandal, when it was uncovered just how much wealth the church had, that it was in the hundreds of billions. And the church would admit, you could just see the level of service the church did, and then it spikes only after it was exposed about how incredibly wealthy the church was. And then the final criticism I've heard is that if you factor in just how wealthy the church is, right now, the percentage of humanitarian efforts it does, the amount of humanitarian efforts that the Mormon Church does as a percentage of its wealth compared to like Walmart or McDonald's or whatever, if we're going to do corporate comparisons, is actually abysmally small.
Yeah. And I mean, even I didn't even think about that in terms of like, okay, what could they be doing? Yeah. Even though it's funny, I didn't even think about that when I've been the one, I'll joke around with my friends for years and years and say, I want the Mormon Church to solve world hunger, you know, like they're on the path. They could be the ones to start and like set up a world hunger fund. Like they could do so much. And I also feel like they have an entire army of people through, especially missionaries, but even just their normal members. But I'm like, you have these missionaries that will do anything you tell them to do. And we can't put them to slightly better use than like door-to-door tracting, you know, let's have them building schools or something.
Water,
a lot of underutilized resources.
Literacy, like hunger, war, famine, housing, homeless people. Like disease, immunizations. Like, just imagine if the Mormon Church's wealth and missionary force were unleashed on humanitarian efforts. So,
absolutely, yeah.
Anyway, that's my
case. Support your first argument that it is a lot self-serving, and I thought of this when we were talking about it as well. Like, a lot of the service events would be like tying together blankets to send to missionaries, or like writing letters to missionaries. And at the time you feel like, oh yeah, that was a service act, when it's like these kids from Utah that are fine, but they're
self-service,
or whatever, they need a blanket. Yeah.
In relation to its wealth, the Mormon Church may not do a lot, but I would say that Scientology does virtually nothing. Scientology is not about helping the poor and needy. Scientology is about making the able more able. That's one of the key tenets in the system. And
is it true though that Scientology
giving something to someone in exchange for nothing is out exchange? That's against the teachings in Scientology.
Yes, yeah.
What about, that's very interesting, and thank you for sharing that. Let me just ask you, I was told at one point 30 or 40 years ago that Scientology was very successful at helping people recover from drug addiction. Is that propaganda or is that true?
That's propaganda.
Interesting. Okay.
I think there was an ex-member who started out at a Narcanon facility, and she has talked about the percentages that she basically just had to make up.
Interesting. Okay.
And she talked about Narcanon being for 90% or whatever it was successful in getting people off drugs. That's not true. They never had that success rate.
Got it.
Yeah. They're very famous for inflating their statistics really dramatically. I think they talk about that in Going Clear. And I think some of the Leah Remini episodes really break down, okay, here's what the real number was. Now, how did they get to justify that it was, we've helped this many people this year? They have a way that they just really inflate all of these numbers. Yeah.
So number inflation is common between the two organizations.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I would also say that the us versus them mentality within the belief system itself, or within the culture, is also used towards people outside of the religion and critics. The current slide that I'm showing is about P for protection, I guess. There's a Waterworrian L. Ron Hubbard quote: "The purpose of the lawsuit is to harass and discourage rather than to win."
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Ouch!
Ouch! That feels that touches me in a special place today.
Oh.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Corry.
In the past, Scientology has a reputation of using lawsuits a lot. They have, at the beginning of the 1990s, I think it was, they sued Time magazine. At one moment, they sued an organization called the Advanced Ability Center. These were a few ex-members practicing Scientology outside of the official church. And what Scientology did is they bankrupted them. The CAN is another thing, CANN, the Cult Awareness Network. I think it should be with one N, not two. That was in the 90s. Scientology sued the CAN into bankruptcy. And what they then did was especially devious, because they bought the name and they continued to the Cult Awareness Network as an organization. Imagine that. At one moment you had the Cult Awareness Network, and when you were a member from whatever cult and you wanted help and you wanted to get out, you maybe would call the Cult Awareness Network, and who would pick up the phone? A Scientologist. They had that too. It didn't operate for very long, I think. It is now dissolved. I already talked about Debbie Cook, how she was sued in 2012, how that went for Scientology. Scientology creates hate websites for important critics. I hope as a result of this episode to get my own hate website.
It's a badge of honor.
And Claire Hadley in her episode talked about how at one moment she got a CPS visit with bogus claims, and CPS basically telling her that she needed to watch her back.
Dang.
In the other way around, it's of course also true that Scientology has been sued by other people, ex-members or whatever, and they had to defend themselves. For Mormonism, I'm only aware of the James Huntsman case, where James Huntsman sued the LDS Church to try and get his tithing back. You did a separate episode about that, of course. Maybe a kind of a special case is the Danny Masterson criminal case. Danny Masterson was accused of raping several women. And because of the important role that Scientology played in these cases, Claire Hadley was asked to testify about how Scientology worked. And in the end, Danny Masterson was convicted to, I don't know, a lot of years in prison.
Yeah, I am a little bit concerned that with Dallin H. Oaks and Todd Christofferson, the church's future might be to become more litigious. I'm hoping that's not what happens, but the tea leaves I'm reading is that might be a new approach. So I hope that's not true. But I mean, the more desperate a church becomes, how embarrassing is it for a $1 billion church or a hundreds of billions of dollars church to be shrinking in the United States? Like, it has to be, like, literally the past 12 months, the Mormon church is in decline in the United States. And that's in spite of, according to the church, record-breaking missionary baptism numbers. And that's in spite of its birth rate being higher than average in the United States. The Mormon church is still in decline overall in the United States. And all they can do is blame it on critics and on YouTube channels and websites, and then think, how do we get after them? Let's smear them, which the church is doing more and more. They smeared Bo Euler. They smeared me. Let's smear people with lots of paid apologists, and let's sue them into oblivion so that we can silence the voices that are clearly weakening us when we should be the most powerful, biggest church in the United States. We're shrinking instead of growing. It's got to be terrible from their perspective, right?
Yeah.
Poor guys.
Yeah. Okay.
Can you imagine, Brooklyn, can you imagine what we could do with $1 billion for Mormon Stories? We would,
I know. I mean,
we would take over the internet.
You can't imagine. I know, yeah. So
I don't know if I would like that.
I don't think anyone should have that much power.
What?
For sure, yeah.
Exactly.
We would use it righteously. Come on.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it is amazing. They actually haven't made more of an impact than they do with the amount of wealth that they have.
No, Alyssa Grenfell gets like, I'm making this up, but 5 times the views that Russell M. Nelson or Dallin H. Oaks gets. Like,
yeah.
Alyssa Grenfell's channel alone, my understanding is, trashes the Mormon Church's entire website. And that's with hundreds of billions of dollars and a 200-year head start. Again, I'm exaggerating, but I think my point is pretty valid.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Oh, man, I feel sorry for those guys. I really do.
And that's not the only thing, but because both Scientology and Mormonism have had to deal in their past and partly also currently with government pressure on the leader as well as government pressure on the church itself. I'm giving a few examples here, and especially Scientology, I guess, has had to deal with pressure from the general public because of the rise of the internet. I already talked about the anonymous protest, the Chanology thing, and more in general, of course, in both for both religious systems, ex-members are very simple, able to organize themselves through forum websites, social media, or whatever. I guess that's the last page of similarities.
I'll just say, historically, the Mormon Church has faced a lot of government opposition, whether it's Missouri or Ohio or Illinois or later federal government with the polygamy stuff. But once, with the 20th century, the United States has become so religion friendly, and with the rise of evangelical Christianity and kind of the merging of the Republican Party and evangelical Christianity, this idea of religious freedom has, and the Supreme Court being dominated by conservative religious Supreme Court justices, the Mormonism has more of a free pass, a blank check, and support from the United States government than it ever has. And I think I read that recently. Tell me if either of you've seen this. The Down 8 Jokes is encouraging on the 5th Sunday of every month for Mormons to study the teachings or the principles of religious freedom as it relates to the United States government, so that we can fight for, even as if tax-exempt status and total freedom isn't enough. Down 8 Jokes wants the Mormon Church to have even more religious freedom.
Wow.
That's new for me. I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah,
I think I saw that in Reddit just like yesterday. So our viewers and listeners can correct us or inform us if that's right or wrong. But I think I read that on Reddit yesterday.
Yeah. And part of just mentioning, the government, I guess, allowances of Mormonism, I also have always thought it just probably came around at kind of the perfect time where, then you have, when the government's kind of starting to fight against the church, or maybe thinking about it, then you have the Civil War come around, and that, I believe, was just a complete distraction from President Lincoln of just like, not worrying about the Mormons right now. We have entirely other things to focus on. And I just think that's just, one of a billion reasons. It just allowed them to kind of like fester and grow and be kind of untouched over there. And I just always remember this quote, and maybe listeners correct me if I'm wrong, but I was taught literally in my history class in Park City High School that Lincoln said, when asked, what are you going to do about the Mormons? Because it was pretty fresh then, that he said, I'm going to do what I did with the stump in my lawn that I couldn't get rid of, and I'm going to go around it, work around it.
Whoa.
And, yeah. So I don't know. I just think of that quote a lot. I just think it was kind of like allowed to fester in a way that allowed it to become as big as it is. I don't know. That's just kind of my own personal thoughts I've always had, but.
No, that's wild. Let me just add this this article, and I wasn't making stuff up. This is from the Church News, published May 5th, so 2 days ago. Church provides discussion guide resources for 5th Sunday lesson on religious freedom.
Wow.
Now, maybe it's not every 5th Sunday. Maybe it's just one 5th Sunday. But it says instruction focuses on moral agency and how the U.S. Constitution and Declaration of Independence support religious liberty.
Wow.
So, I guess none of us are against. I don't know. I guess we're all against religious bigotry, right? Like, that's not good. But I have to ask, why should a $300 to $500 billion organization that's basically a corporation masquerading as a church, why should they get tax-exempt status? Can anybody explain that to me? Why shouldn't some of those?
I can't, because it's baffling to me.
Well, what's that?
I think in Australia, at one moment they tried to get something like a test for tax-exempt organizations into law, meaning that tax-exempt organizations have to prove that they actually do something good for the community.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it went anywhere, but I do remember that at the time Scientology was very critical about that because they basically don't want to do anything good for society, I guess.
And
Okay.
I would say our church would do anything they could to meet criteria for helping society, because I think our church would want to be viewed as helpful to society.
Scientology would very much like to be viewed as helpful for society, but they don't actually want to do it.
Oh.
Yeah.
No, I think our church believes people need to help themselves. I do think the church has kind of a bias that way.
It's very Americanized in a lot of ways, so I feel like that's one that plays into it,
Kind of pull your
laissez-faire attitude, yeah.
Pull yourself up by your bootstraps kind of thing. Yeah.
Okay, this basically was my comparison of the two religious systems. I would welcome criticism in the comments.
No, that was such a fantastic job. Yeah.
If anyone wants to use this for their own purposes, they're free to do so. I would be interested in seeing an analysis of especially the Jehovah's Witnesses in let's say a third column along to Scientology and the LDS Church. I guess there's enough material on the internet that you want to use to analyze other religions through this lens, I guess. Cults to Consciousness has, of course, done a lot of videos talking with people from all kinds of different belief systems that might be helpful. When you try to apply this to a secular worldview, I don't think it really fits. Secular worldview, as I understand secular life, I don't think it prescribes a goal that you, for example, need to try to accomplish. And I guess also it could be said that from a secular worldview, we tend to think science is very important, and this science learns us that things like masturbation are normal. Being in the LGBT community is okay. It's very fine. So I guess this means for me, and I'm pretty sure a lot of Dutch people would agree to that, well, basically what we say is that we don't need your product. We don't need your religion. In a way, I think you could say that, especially here in the Netherlands, that religions looks like a product that is trying to find a need to fulfill, but the marketing mix doesn't work anymore. At least it doesn't work as good as it did in the past. Both the United States as well as the Netherlands have to deal with less and less people being religious. So from the perspective of the religious organization, if you try to be a positive influence in your community, I think we need to go back to the drawing board. What are the needs that must be fulfilled? What do people actually need so we can provide for whatever is needed? And so the next part of this episode, or maybe the next, it will be that we are going to look at the Netherlands as an example of a secular country to look for an alternative.
Yeah, so I definitely want to cover that. I don't think we should add it to the end of this episode because we're already at 3 hours and I think it deserves its own discussion. So I want to say, first of all, thank you, Corry, for what we've already discussed. I think sort of the framing of from Anti-Scientologist to quote Anti-Mormon, I think that is a perfect wrapping for today's episode. Before we end today, and promise that we'll cover the living the happy secular life in another episode, because I know that's near and dear to your heart. I want to end by pushing back a little bit. Corry, I want to hear what you would say. And Brooklyn, I want to hear you too. Like Corry, one of the things that's really confusing to faithful church members and apologists is they think that John Dehlin and Mormon Stories, that our motives are to tear the church down, that we hate the church, that we're trying to get people to leave, that we're trying to get people to lose their faith, and that we believe that the world would be better off if there was no Mormon church. And I just want to say, I've been doing this 21 years, and I remain unconvinced that the world would be better off without the Mormon church. I know that probably sounds shocking, and I'm just going to say what I think I've said many, many times before. I grew up in a divorced home. I grew up lower middle class. Lots of bad things could have happened to me, I think, in my life. But because the Mormon church had Boy Scouts and young men's and young women's and youth conference and temple trips and Sunday meetings, I felt like I got a moral upbringing, a spiritual upbringing, a friend group, a group of leaders that cared, an identity, a sense of morals and purpose that I think, made me graduate with honors of my high school. I went on to graduate summa cum laude of my university. I went on to work at Bain and Microsoft. Like, I feel like, and even though the church kicked me out, I feel like I'm in the 1% of the most privileged in the world. And I'm proud of the life I've lived. And I do think that my ethics and my morals and my values and even my socioeconomic status are, at least in some ways, associated with my LDS and Mormon upbringing. And the fact that there's so many wealthy Mormons and influential Mormons and CEOs and influencers and happy Mormon families all across the world shows that certainly Mormonism isn't the only way. And certainly there's a lot of harm in the church, but you could also argue that there's so much good, and that every other way of life has harm and problems. And so I'm not even convinced after all of today that I think the Mormon church is bad and should be done away with. So I want to hear y'all respond to whether you agree with me or disagree with me. And Trevor, you or Corry, you go first, and then Brooklyn, I want to hear you as well.
I think the Mormon church could do better.
Agreed.
Be open about finances, be open about membership, that kind of thing. And I surely think it could be a force for good in the world. I am not against religion, although from the previous comparison between Scientology and Mormonism, it might look that I'm very much against religion. I don't. If people want to have believe in a God or a higher cause or whatever it is, they're of course free to do so. If people in groups want to experience being a church, being together, that's of course fine. I don't care. It's abuse. It's when abuse is at the table that I'm getting angry. It's when I learned about how Scientology operates and how it tries to get rid of critics, and how they treat their own members, then I was like, this is just bad. That can't be good. And I would agree that the Mormon church is in a way better than Scientology. It's not as bad. Maybe it's the other way around to say that. But I guess it is helpful for the Mormon Church to become aware of their own blind spots, I guess. What is it in the teachings that is not helpful? What is it in the behavior of members that is not helpful? And I guess in your podcast and maybe me in this episode, we have shown some of the things that could be done better.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Love it. Thank you. Brooklyn, what's your response?
Yeah. I mean, I love everything both of you guys said. I feel like I mean, 100%, it sounds odd. I don't want the Mormon Church to go anywhere. Maybe because I'm still like attached. It's such a big part of my life. I have so much respect for it. I think it can be such a beautiful organization in so many ways. I think Corry just said it perfectly. Like, we just want you to do better. I want it to be its absolute best, because exactly when it comes down to things like abuse happening and just like, that's the thing where it becomes an excuse on a wall, and it could just be easier to say, do away with the entire thing if we can't solve this problem. But there's so much beauty in it, and so many just good qualities it gives you. You know, even just some specific examples, like my family would always talk about that. We're so grateful that Mormonism like teaches kids how to be public speakers and like give them confidence, because Mormon kids are up talking in sacrament meetings since they can talk. You're up there bearing your testimony, even if your mom's like whispering in your ear. Like, you're up there in front of people, getting experience like that, having confidence. I just think that's been a major thing that's helped me and my siblings. I don't know. And just so many other good things of just good ways to live your life. There's so much good that comes from it. I think that, I don't know, it's a very unique and special religion. There is also the phrase of, all that's good about Mormonism isn't unique. All that's unique isn't good. I think that can definitely be true to an extent, but like, I want it to be around. I want it to do so well. I think in a similar vein of that thought of like unique versus good, when I was leaving the church and going down rabbit holes of lots of religions and listening to all sorts of podcasts, there was a podcast I was like addicted to called Dogma Debate. I don't think it's still around, but I really, really loved it. It was just this host named David Smalley. He would just have very healthy debates with religious members, and it wasn't supposed to be, mean-spirited at all. It was just debating. And one thing he said that really stuck with me all the time was, so I'm just saying that is that this was his philosophy that he came up with, was that religion can be like when you're going through the desert and you're so thirsty and you need some water, but you come across, say, like a soda. And religion's a soda, and you can drink that soda and it will give you some life-saving benefits. It has hydration in there, but that there's also all this other bad stuff in there that isn't necessarily serving you. And I think actually his specific comparison was then like humanism, which he was always talking about. Like, humanism could be the water where it has all of those good parts, but doesn't have a lot of the negative traits as well. So I don't know, that's something I think about a lot. And I'm just trying to always think about how can I take those good parts and still represent them in my life without Mormonism. But I don't know the answer. I don't have kids yet. I am married. I want to have kids. I still don't know. I'm like, do I want them in a religion? Do I not? What's the right thing? I'm still figuring all of that out, because it's not as simple as like, oh, I hate it. Absolutely not. Like, I could see myself almost bringing kids to a Mormon space and getting all the benefits that I had. And yeah, to be honest, I just don't know yet. But it's not a conclusive. I do not hate the church. There's so much I love about the church, and like so much of who I am is because of the Mormon church. So I can't hate it.
I want to add something, which is that I don't think I would want religion to go away. Because while I'm myself am very comfortable as an atheist in a secular country, I do recognize there are a lot of people that still have, for example, need to deal with the fact that we're all going to die and what happens. And while I am very comfortable not knowing the answer to that question, there are a lot of people for whom that maybe isn't enough. And having a religion with a story about what happens after you die, or maybe even before you were born, or whatever it is maybe very helpful to them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely agree. Yeah, I think that's another thing that I always think too, they're just space, but I totally recognize there's people out there that really need it and would be completely lost in their lives without it. And I feel like I'm kind of blessed that I don't feel like that's necessarily me, that I feel like I can live a secular life and still take what I learned from religion.
Yeah.
But there are 100% people I think that need religion in this world, and I don't want it to go away for those people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll do my dual rant, one critical and one affirming. Like when we talk about abuse, there's child sexual abuse cover-ups, there's financial fraud and deception, there's hiding the history, there's treating women as second-class citizens, there's racism and treating people of color as second-class citizens, there's the LGBT suicide epidemic. And again, the financial fraud, and then the punishing of honest critics and truth tellers. All of that's super abusive, and in the Mormon Church, it's just got to stop, right? And it's real, and it's harmful, and it's got to stop. So I think even members can agree that that's all bad stuff that needs to go away. And so that's our argument, that the church needs desperately to do better because lives are at stake. And I always like to say, part of me wanted to make a book called Nice Cult and basically say how Mormonism is actually, you could argue it's more harmful than Scientology, because while it may not cause as much harm per member,
that's a good point.
It causes more collective harm to more people, because it's viewed as nice instead of as horrible. So it can have thousands of LGBT deaths, or tens of thousands of LGBT deaths, or tens of thousands of divorces, or tens or hundreds of thousands of instances of child abuse, because it's not demonized and marginalized to the extent that Scientology is, which allows it to be more popular and to be more socially acceptable. So in some ways, you could argue the Mormon Church is more dangerous because it's perceived as being nicer. And so those are my arguments critical of the church. But I agree with what you just said, Brooklyn. I think there's this idea of a believing brain. I think a good 70 to 80% of humans just need to believe, want to believe. And so if religion isn't going away, and if people, and if loneliness is one of the most, if we talk about deadly things, cigarettes are deadly, alcohol's deadly, drugs are deadly. You know what's deadly is loneliness. And you know what the number one behavior associated with longevity? It's social groups and healthy friendships. And of course, Mormonism or religion is not the only way to get that. But it is a very valid way to get that, along with community and meaning and purpose and morality. And so if 80% of our culture needs religion or religious belief, and if community and service and spirituality and friendships and morality and identity and purpose and resolution of the afterlife, if those are all necessary for many, many people for healing and growth, then we just need lots of religions to be healthier and healthier. And that's my vision for the world, not a religion without religion, not a world without religion, and not a world without Mormonism. It's a world with healthier religions and a world with healthier Mormonism. And that's why I get so mad when people call me anti-Mormon or say that Mormon Stories is trying to destroy the Mormon church or take people out of it, because that's not how I felt, and it's never how I felt. That's my rant.
I agree. Yeah.
Beautiful.
I never got the impression from you that you wanted the church to be destroyed.
I agree. Yeah, I'm so glad you say that comment, because I think that anyone that says that hasn't even watched one episode. Because I think you watch one episode and you understand, oh, this isn't what I thought it was. Yeah.
Well, make sure Julia makes a short of these closing comments.
Yeah.
I want Kurt McConkie and the church's law firms to hear me loud and clear. Not that they care. And I want Jasmine Rapoli.
Care a lot.
What's that?
They care a lot about what you do. Yeah.
Well, I want Jasmine Rapoli and all the Mormon apologists to get this video loud and clear. And I want my viewers and listeners to send that rant to every Mormon apologist and believing Mormon out there that wants to claim Mormon Stories is trying to destroy the church. We just want the church to be better, full stop.
Mm-hmm.
And in that note, Corry, TrevAnon, what an amazing 3 hours. What a gift. You've already given us thousands of hours of your service.
Yeah.
Thank you for these 3.5 hours plus all your prep, because what a great great story and a great analysis you've shared with us today. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and we'll have you back to talk about living the secular life. How does that sound?
That sounds great.
Any final words, Corry or TrevAnon?
No, I'm good. I'm looking forward to recording the next episode.
All right. Well, thanks for all you've done for the Mormon Stories community. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
And Brooklyn, thanks for all you've done for you're my longest serving employee at this point, or
I'm
contractor.
Honored to be. No, I really love you, John. I think it's been great working for you, and yeah, thanks for having me on. Really great to talk to you, Corry. I always want to call you Trevor first too, because that's in my mind is Trevor.
I don't care.
So yeah, this was wonderful. And I'm so grateful that you're going to upload, these slides for everyone to use in lots of different ways. Like, I just think it can go to a lot of good use. Mm-hmm.
Amen.
Really fascinating.
Amen. Yeah. Great work. All right. Thanks, Corry. Thanks, Brooklyn.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Thank you. And thanks everyone for joining us today on Mormon Stories. Please email us with your feedback at mormonstories@gmail.com. Please leave comments and questions. Trevor's in all the YouTube comments. TrevAnon, Corry is in all the YouTube comments. So we'll definitely respond to your comments there if you've got them. If you disagree, if you have compliments or criticisms, we want to hear it in the comments. We appreciate your, please subscribe to this channel. Please like and comment and share all our channels, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, etc. We're grateful to our donors that make all this possible. Thank you. We couldn't do it without you. And if you want to be a donor, if you want to support Mormon Stories and the Open Stories Foundation, you also can become a monthly donor at mormonstories.org/donate. You can become a monthly donor, and all your donations are tax deductible in the U.S., and they'll go towards our mission of informed consent in Mormonism, less harm, less abuse, and supporting Mormons in faith transition. Check out future episodes. We appreciate Julia and Brooklyn for all they do in post-production. And that's it for today. Be good to each other. Be kind to each other. And we'll see you all again soon on another episode of Mormon Stories Podcast. Thanks, everyone. Y'all take care.